Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 413. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, alongside Johnny V.
How many European Opens have we been around for?
Not
in life for our podcast. I was trying to think. This is like European Open recap number 4.
No, this is the
for us on the podcast because we started in like 2014, but the end in November. So
yeah,
so we did 15, 17,
and 19. I don't know.
19?
I don't remember, and I'll be the first to admit I'm not only am I glad I was there and we all had our roles in broadcasting it live, but I told quite a few people, especially the ones who were shocked that I'd never been there before, I don't pay a lot of attention to tournaments I'm not at. And maybe that's... I don't know what that is, but if I'm not working it in terms of filming, if I'm not doing any interviews, if I'm not on the ground, if I'm not in a booth, I have a hard time paying attention to it, only because then usually that means I'm working elsewhere. And European Open is one of those events that has been largely, I was trying to think as to why that was. Well, largely UC and his crew have been running Spin 18 or Spin TV, and they've had most of the media coverage in one way or another, for lack of a better term, already on lock or handled. And so not being a part of that, the Spin TV project at really any point directly, I've just had very little to almost zero involvement whatsoever with the European Open, and I guess the same thing goes for you. So this was a whole different experience, and there really is no better way to experience it, to recap it, to talk about it, than to bring in right away our 3-time European Open FPO winner, Paige Pierce.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Paige.
How you
Thanks
doing?
for joining the show.
I didn't realize it was your first time there, Terry.
Yeah, I was trying to think of why. And like I said, just UC has been so organized and so on top of media, but it's always been quote unquote his media. And
he didn't have time this year with all the quiet duties he had.
Yeah. No, he's out there every year doing that.
I know he is.
But
I'm just it's just really funny to see the TD follow the lead card with the quiet, and I know he's got a lot of other things he's doing, crowd control. It's just there were a few funny memes out there with him holding the quiet sign.
To be fair, as Paige can attest, he's not the TD.
No, he's not
at all. He's not even.
No, he's not.
He's technically, not in charge of it.
I mean, not on paper.
Everybody listens to him, though. We need to listen to one Paige Pierce. Let's start with some basics. Of course, the congratulations. But then let's get right into your travels. You know, this is a quick turnaround. Some people were at Idlewild. Some people didn't go because they were doing other things. And then, some people did Norway and European Open. Some didn't. Talk to us about your travels and why you made the decisions that you did, just in general about those.
Yeah, I focused on all the Pro Tour events, the Elite Series Pro Tour events and the majors this year. And so I didn't sign up for any Silver Series, which means I wasn't going to go to Norway. I also didn't want to rush that quick. I mean, that event started on Wednesday and it was only a Silver Series. So yes, I want to go to Norway so bad, but there will be a time for that. And, I've been to Finland. This was my 5th year now going and playing in Nokia. And none of those times have I done anything besides disc golfing. So I wanted to get there a little bit early. I thought, a lot of my competitors would still be in Norway. The course would be a little bit less busy. And also I would have more time to adjust. And I would have more time to explore and actually get to know this country besides just the disc golf course. So that was my first thought on why I did not play Norway or any other event. And so after Idlewild, I drove to Detroit, which was only 4.5 hours actually, and left my van at Discraft. And that worked out great because it was a short drive. And also, now here I am flying back into Detroit and this event starts. So it was super easy and very convenient. So yeah. And then I just flew. I got the first flight available out so I could get back to Discraft or to Michigan because, with it being Discraft's home event, I figured I was going to be super busy. So I wish I hadn't, hindsight, gotten the 7 a.m. flight out of Helsinki because I forgot about the black party. It's going all night long. And also just from Nokia to Tampere, where the party is 40 minutes. And then from Tampere to Helsinki is 2 hours. So that had me pulling an all-nighter. I was at the black party till 2 a.m. and then drove to Helsinki to get there at 4 and got on a flight at 7 a.m. And I actually saw Brian Graham and Ricky Wysocki and a couple other disc golfers all on that same flight. So I could have figured that Ricky would be on the first flight out as well. So it was pretty funny to see him on the flight.
Yeah,
he always seems to be leading. Just first off the tee, first out of the city.
Yeah, I was in a very similar position after the black party. It was hanging around a little bit more around town, and then next thing you know, Chandler Kramer's looking for a ride to get to the airport. Yeah, well, I had to go then to his Airbnb where I picked him up, which was the opposite direction of the airport. I picked him up from his Airbnb at like 4 something, and then brought him to the airport. And then Kat and Austin were on our same flight as well. We were all on the same flight that brought us from Tampere into Munich, Germany. And then they went to New York. All 3 of them actually just barely made their connector to New York, and I went back to Chicago. So it's just, there's something cool, and you can maybe speak to this more than anyone. What's that like? What does that say about our sport, and what's that like to go to an airport and then see all of your fellow competitors, at all these international airports and randomly seeing each other or realizing people are on the same flights? What does that feel different to you when you're in another country and that's happening?
I think it's really cool. I think when you see, even when you're driving to a different event and you see someone stop at the same gas station, it's just cool, but definitely when you're worldwide and you're flying in airports and stuff, that's really cool. But I think, it's more rare to see your competitors, but it's a lot more common these days to just see random disc golfers that they just see your bag and they're like, what's up? Where are you at? And that's just always cool. And then it always starts the conversation. Have you played this course? And next thing you know, you're stressed on time because you're just talking to a random disc golfer for a while. But yeah, it's super cool just to, I guess, just be more globally recognized, right? And played. And so you see a lot more people out there.
Yeah, and I'll real quick. Similarly, I had flown into Frankfurt, Germany, and I had like a 3 or 4 hour layover on the way there. And sure enough, I run into Alex, who's actually a writer for UDisc, and then we were on the next 2 legs together. We flew into Latvia together, and then we both threw into Tampere, and I ended up giving him a ride indirectly back to his Airbnb. So it's just funny that you see these people, and obviously we all have the same agenda on a weekend like this. Right. I mean, I used to get geeked out when you'd go even to like fly out of Charlotte the day after the USDGC, and it's like, oh, there's Elaine King, and there's you'd see all these random people that all doing what you're doing, but yeah, it's this funny little brotherhood and sisterhood we have. So you're back. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's like to the point where we're all kind of playing the same events, right? Like everybody's hitting the Pro Tours, everybody's hitting the majors. So you're starting to see a lot more people like coming together at the airport or on Highway 35 at the same time. So especially with the big old vans, it's hard to miss.
Everybody's so recognizable. Yeah, exactly. As you're passing one another. So let's specifically you're back. I saw you make a post. You checked out. You were checking out the toboggan, and just overall, how are you feeling? What's recovery been like? I know that makes for a long night or two, but how things been since arriving and touching ground in Michigan.
Yeah, it's been pretty smooth so far. Actually, I got, like I said, I got on that 7 a.m. flight, and we fly backwards in time. So when I landed, it was only like 12:20 p.m. And so right before I got off my flight, I actually slept very well on my flight. I got first class. So first
Damn.
time, yeah, first time in my life, I sprung for first class, and I thought, what a better time, no better time to do it than on an 8-hour flight. So
Mm-hmm.
I got to sleep and get really rested. And then I set my alarm on my phone, and right before we landed, I basically chugged 2 coffees, and, just told myself, like, if I can kind of like just wake up and get through the day and at least make it till like 9 p.m., then I'll hopefully get a good night's sleep and like reset, was my thought. And I slept for 12 solid hours. I woke up at 9 a.m. And but anyway, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. But yeah, when I landed after those coffees I chugged, I went straight to the course and got around in and got to see the new changes and just kind of like get adjusted to this trek that we were getting on. But um and then, yeah, slept for 12 hours, and then today played again. And now I'm feeling like, right when I just answered the call, you said I looked tired, and I'm feeling it. Like about 30 minutes ago, I started like really like, oh my gosh, am I going to make it to Smashbox? But yeah, I'm starting to feel tired again, but it's good. It's like 10 p.m. now, so it's bedtime anyway.
Yeah, so we're not going to keep you too incredibly late, but we certainly appreciate you joining, and I know the fans do more than anything as well. You know, what can I guess maybe the silly thing is, what can we ask you that it hasn't been experienced by you in the past? You're at 17 majors, the most winning majors of all women to ever play the sport, and only a couple more, by Ken Climo on the men's side, but one of our most winning women ever, and on the largest stage ever. So
most spectators, one of the biggest payouts.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
all of that.
let's start there. Where do you put this win compared to any other win?
I mean, just battle wise, it was one of the best of my whole life. Like we really played hard, and we were out there shredding. I had to shoot my best round at the tournament in the final round to win it, and so I had to shoot better each day to move up, and then saved my best round for last to close it out. So yeah, and I got a lot of birdies that final round that I hadn't even sniffed the other 3 days. So Evelina was pushing me to the very end. So it was really far up there, especially just I don't know, the vibes were good. We were all happy for each other, and cheering each other on, and pushing each other to throw better shots. Like I think of hole 14 in particular. You know, Henna had the box, or I had the box, and I got myself to 25 feet or so. And then, all of my competitors continued to get closer to the basket than me.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the exception of Evelina, who left at 65 short, but then she nails that putt. And it's just like, wow, this is a hole that we played better than the men. And so it was cool to see that we were all kind of pushing each other. And yeah, that's, I think, exactly how you want sports to be.
I think we were blessed this weekend with the FPO and MPO battles being able
Totally.
so close, so tight. I mean, at least at the top of the fields, for both divisions, that the viewers really got a great show.
Yeah. Do you feel as if there was a parallel in that, like, you and Evelina largely pulled away from the field, similar to the way Eagle and Paul had? Did you feel or did you feel like things were that much still closer in the FPO division, you being obviously still 2 behind Evelina going into it, but did you feel any of the similar parallel or not?
In a way, yeah, but a little bit less extreme. I think that the final round for MPO, it was 100% Eagle or Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the final round, in my head, personally, I thought it was going to be Evelina or I, but if I had a bad round,
Mm-hmm.
and Evelina did as well, it could have been Henna or Kat or Katrina as well.
Sure.
So It would have taken them to have a stellar round and both of us to have a bad round, but that still was in play where the 11 stroke deficit that I think, Chandler and Kevin faced was significantly bigger.
Now, looking at your final round, it brings up two questions. One, did you realize when it was all said and done that you just had 4 pars? I mean, you had a lot of birdies and a lot of bogeys, but 4 pars. Did you? And does that mean anything to you?
No, I didn't realize that until like after the tournament concluded, and I kind of was just like looking at who podiumed, who got top 5, who got top 10, stuff like that. And then I was like, whoa, there's only 4 pars on my scorecard. No, in those moments, it's like, yeah, I was getting as many birdies as I possibly could. And then when I was off the fairway, I was trying to minimize the damage. And like I think of hole 3, I had 2 great shots, and then my third shot got a little unlucky, rolled away. Not much I can do there. Bogey is what I have to settle for. Hole 4, same thing. Like, I threw a great drive, but my second shot hit a tree and rolled down the hill, and bogey was best I could do. So in those moments, I'm not thinking about like my colorful scorecard. I'm just trying to get it in the basket in the least amount of throws as possible. And ideally, yes, you want that to be birdies, but sometimes that's out of your control. So just trying to make sure there's no darker orange on the scorecard.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly to your point, you had 7 birdies in the final round, whereas the previous 3 rounds combined, I think you had 12. And so, as you said, you were out there collecting quite a few birdies. You obviously had a few of the bogeys to accompany that, and the last one we could always you could almost toss out because you're at that point all you need to play for at worst was a bogey, and playing your chip shots or whatever. But anyway, and then my next question, that when I'm looking at your scorecard and the colorfulness, and or I look at a lot of the other scores that are out there, you've really more than once brought up the distances and or the challenges of the course. Where do you put this course specifically and what it presents? Where do you put this on your list in terms of challenge and fairness and all that stuff? Like, where do you rate this course?
Yeah, I think I was talking about this with a friend today who watched live, and she was talking about how hole 17, for example, it doesn't look as hard on camera as everyone made it seem in play. And I think that just the elevation change is hard to show on camera, but that is the biggest challenge at the Beast every single hole. I mean, I can't think of a hole 9 maybe is the flattest hole out there, but even that one, you're slightly downhill and you can easily sail it past the basket. So, I mean, hardly any of the holes are flat. So every single hole you have to account for the angle your disc lands at when it hits the ground and your speed control when it hits the ground. So I think that, the more veteran of a player that you see, the better they're going to be on courses with elevation change, because everyone can learn how to throw an anhyzer, a hyzer, a roller, a sidearm, but learning how to control what angle your disc lands at and the speed is a lot more finite of a change here and there. So that is something, I mean, that's just really cool to know like the difference between an unlucky break and, oh, hey, I shouldn't have hit the hill at that angle. So, and to, when those things happen, to frame your mind in a sense of like taking it as a learning lesson and not just like, oh man, I had another spit out. Oh man, I had a roll away, and just really trying to learn from that, because we are going to play that course again. We are going to play lots of holes like those with elevation changes. And so for me, that course is very challenging. And unfortunately, the videos don't do it as much justice as I wish it could. But that's just something that you'll have to see someday, make a trip out there.
Yeah, and you're exactly right on 17. It's easy to, I have the little post production I ever watched going into this week. I saw, is 17 really that hard? And then I was out there and I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it now. Like the shot that's required, the potential for the roll away on both the drive and or the even the fly off on both the drive, the roll away on an approach, like throwing a correct approach at all, not coming up too short. Like you're right. You then see it and experience it.
I think both 16 and 17, watching the players play it, it doesn't look, neither shot looks as difficult as it is until you watch the pros do it. And I kind of have this feeling like, if I'm watching everybody go out of bounds, there's clearly something that we're not seeing, whether, you know, and it's hard to make that translation. It's hard to, that approach on 16, watching the FPO just crush it. I mean, was it the final round or this third round that I think all of you made it on the
final round?
Was the final round. They all made it on the island. I bet you there's not another MPO group that did that.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's the, you know, like to my, you know, like people send you messages all the time, fans and just people that are watching and like, wow, great tournament, great win, great, we know, however they want to phrase that, right? But it's more rare to get that from your peers and your male counterparts in the sport. So like going to the black party after my win and like, you know, all these MPO players coming up to me like, wow, your shot on hole 16, like, and like specifically picking one shot and just being like, you are insane. Like you just threw a fierce onto that green after she just pinned it. Like, what were you thinking? You're insane. Like, and so, you know, in the best way. So it was just cool to have been in a similar position as other players and for them to know what it took to make that shot, but then also to do it to win a tournament. And so that was cool, like, because I felt those feelings. And so to hear that kind of validated was and like respected, I guess, was really cool feelings for me.
It sounds like we need a few more of those Paige Pierce hole breakdowns that you used to do on your YouTube.
Oh yeah,
I forget the name of the series that you had, where you basically broke down an entire hole with another FPO player.
Or like find the line or
something like
that.
Nice
What is it?
Nice line.
Nice line. Thank you. Now, with all that being said, would you disagree with the idea of a hole like 11, which, by the way, I think there's our trivia question. That might be the only flat hole, even though it's got a ton of OB.
Oh, yeah, that one's
literally
flat.
the only flat hole. So you're right. As I was trying to go through that, maybe 2 and 11. Would you be mad with, you know, and you look at all the stats, would you be mad if there was a tee that was 30 feet, anywhere between 30 and 50 feet closer on a hole like 11? And I'm very specific about 11, but would you be mad at that, or would you like that change, or not really?
I think that hole needs to change just in general.
Okay.
Specifically, if we're talking about hole 11 at the Beast.
Yeah.
None of the men like that hole either.
Okay.
It's just kind of like a poke and hope, and the
Sure.
OB right where you're trying to poke and hope through.
Mm-hmm.
If you clip any branch, you drop into that pond unless you get a crazy water skip.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so general opinion, that hole needs to go. That hole in hole 8, I heard a lot of people saying it doesn't really match the rest of the course.
Really? It doesn't, but
I honestly, I kind of like hole 8. I think there's, and again, a course that has a lot of different variety, and 8, it's a simple hole. I mean, it
makes you make the putt.
Exactly.
Which I like.
It's an uphill putt up to that mound, and it's just a little stable putter or mid range or whatever you want to use to get up there.
What's funny is I got it every day. I got it all 4 days.
Yeah.
I
the passion.
No, I threw my foot with passion.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Now, try and make me smart for a moment. Were you just trying to come in a tad short and then let it kind of skip up the hill?
Yeah, the putter's not quite getting there on that hyzer uphill angle that I want to throw it on. And when it lands, it's not getting the speed up. So I wanted to go a little bit faster, and I'm just trying to kind of get that skip off the mulch a little bit up, and that the flippiness of the disc allows it to get a little bit more glide easier.
Yeah, I think having a hole like that, maybe after a bunch of long holes, it's more of a mind game. You're used to throwing hard. Now suddenly you need to dial something back. It's the pitcher changeup rule, just you're throwing something at somebody that they're not used to playing. But I mean, if they replaced it, I don't think anyone would cry. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
I don't mind it. That's just whatever.
it was better this year. Sure.
It was better. Is that what you said?
Yeah, they moved the tee pad backwards about 60 feet and like 30 feet to the left. So it was more of a hyzer angle and a little bit farther.
Okay. How about 15? That'll be the last one I ask you about then. Is that truly a par 3, or does I know par matters only so much, but yeah, 15. I guess you can drive it there. I mean, people can. It just seems like it would just often not be done. But yeah, okay,
yeah,
never mind.
Oh,
go ahead. No. Go ahead and break down 15 for us.
Well, I think the best line is like a lefty flex backhand or like a super strong righty sidearm that has the turnover. But the best shot I personally saw in it was James Conrad's kind of like, the shot he threw on 16 at Worlds on the island hole, like the kind of flexy
stalling putter.
Yeah, well, he threw it with a putter at Worlds on 16, but he threw that same kind of looking shot, but with a driver on that one, and that was the closest that I'd seen anyone get. But a lot of the men there don't like that hole. They said it's a little too close to the right side. They wanted the basket moved a little to the left, so they felt more enticed to go for it. But I think it's a great hole because it's coming down the stretch and it makes you make a decision whether or not the basket should be moved a bit or not, or the par is wrong or right. I like that it's a type of hole that makes you make a decision. And in that moment, I think Macbeth chose the wrong decision. You just watch Eagle go out of bounds, lay it up, take that stroke and move on, tied. So, I'm sure he's thinking about that in these days after the event. How could I have, obviously he wants his drive on 17 to land in bounds, but that's the easiest stroke I see to get back is just pitch to the bottom of the hill, take your 3. And so yeah, I think it's a good hole in that sense of making you make a decision. But I think from all the feedback I heard, I think UC's really receptive and willing to change. So I'm sure that hole will be a little bit different next time we play it.
Yeah, and I guess I was thinking more from an FPO perspective as to how many people are going after that green, and I just feel like
Hannah and Evelina.
Yeah, exactly. and then I think, okay, and it didn't work out for either of them, in a majorly beneficial way, and that's I love what you're saying about it makes you think about it, but for a lot of women, for almost all women, it's not even really a thought. It's not a choice.
Yeah, and even if you stick that other side, it's pretty hard to get that 2. So it's not really worth it
because the putt's dangerous.
Yeah,
I mean, elevated basket usually towards the OB.
Yeah,
right. So
okay.
yeah, I think it's too easy to 3 it, but I don't see anyone getting really that well. I'm sure there was people that did, but I don't see you getting worse than a bogey. Like you throw it OB, you get your putt up there, but
sure.
Maybe if you have trouble on the green and you 2 or 3 putt, that's a different story. But it should be a 2-shot hole no matter if you go OB or not.
So 4 rounds. Well, let's back up even before the event too. President's Cup. Speak to that for a moment as to what that event has kind of become and meant for you, and being now one of the staples on that team.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's fun to get together as a team because in disc golf, I mean, that's my favorite part of it. I don't care about Team USA, honestly. I don't care about Team Europe. It's just cool to gather a team of individuals together and fight for the same thing and have that camaraderie, because that's something that we don't see in disc golf as a solo sport. So that's really cool. And being in the locker room and, you know, getting ready and having these speeches, and like, those are moments that you're not going to forget. So that's the best part of it for me personally. And it's just, you know, we don't have any other event like that. So
Is it the perfect warm up going into the European Open, or is there anything else you'd rather see or do?
I thought it was great, you know, going into Thursday. I felt like I had already had a competitive practice round, and I kind of knew what, you know, at least 3 of my competitors were kind of looking like on those holes, and kind of what their game plan was going to be. I kind of saw what my game plan should be. I actually, in the President's Cup, it was pretty funny. On hole 11, we played hole 11 at the President's Cup, and I had my Raptor out, just going to like kind of pitch a chip hyzer to the middle, and play for a 3. And Henna was like, you don't go for this. And I was like, no, like, I'm just gonna go OB. And I went OB in the President's Cup, and she was like, I went for it. And I'm like, guess I should have, you know? And so she was like, you know, Henna and I were matched up against each other. So she was like, next round, match play, we both go for it, deal? And I was like, all right, let's go for it. And so I got inside the circle on that. I landed a shot safe and inside the circle. And, you know, earlier in the match, the stroke play, that Raptor shot hit the light post and stayed OB, and I ended up taking a double bogey. So I was like, you know what, Henna, I think you're right, you know? So if I go OB, at least I'm OB by the basket. So I ended up changing my game plan come tournament time, and I went for it all 4 rounds. And I got it the final round on a birdie, and then I had 2 easy 3 looks, or par looks. And so, yeah, it was cool to kind of like see what my competitors were doing, maybe change last minute game change plan, and just kind of see how the course was playing, what scores were good on which holes and stuff like that. So yeah, I felt like it's definitely the best warm up that you could have the day before.
You talk a lot when you're with her, obviously, to Evelina. Well, you do talk a lot, and we love it, honestly. I think you're one of the smarter players to break down holes and such. I love listening to when you watch everything. It's really interesting to even watch you watch the other players, and then when you do post-production, you know what almost everyone's throwing, whether you ask them or not. You seem to kind of keep an eye on a lot of that stuff, which I think is phenomenal. But that's not where I was going with the question. Evelina, we've seen her play with you quite a bit now. Do you think she's better than you off the tee? From tee to green? She always seems to be leading the divisions. And you know what she does after that is one thing. What do you look at? What do you see from her when you...
Yeah, you know, I think that we as outsiders create storylines for each other. And I think that is completely untrue for this event. Like, she only had 1 hole. I think I played with her 3 out of the 4 rounds. At least 3 out of the 4 rounds. And I only saw her 3-putt 1 time the whole event.
Yeah.
And it was just 1 missed putt, and then she made the 30-foot comebacker. So I think that she has had moments where she's not putting good, but I think this weekend I putted worse, actually. So I think this weekend I would say that I drove the disc better than her. But
which is funny, because maybe I broke up a little bit, because I asked you if you thought she was better than you off the tee, from tee to green, because her stats are always better than everybody else's when she plays. Like this weekend, according to UDisc, she gained 3 strokes on you from tee to green. Statistically, she was better than you off the tee.
I don't know if I believe that. I think that I drove the disc better than her this weekend. I think I putted a lot worse than her this weekend, but I drove the disc better. Remember, UDisc is all volunteer based, so
I know.
And those damn Finnish volunteers are
and to your point, it says you gained 11 strokes on the field as opposed to her 3 on the green. So statistically it's different than what your perception is different than what the statistics say. It's really interesting.
Yeah. And I don't know, but I hear that stat a lot, that she's a good thrower, and I obviously see it with my own eyes and I believe it. As far as like stats goes, I mean, I don't know. You just gotta look at the stats, I guess. But I felt personally, without looking at the stats, that I threw the disc better. But yeah, absolutely. Is Evelina a good thrower? Yes, she is incredible. And like when the disc comes out of her hand, she reminds me of Val, how much snap she has on the disc when she's throwing a shot. And if you're not looking, you're like, whoa, what was that? You know? So it's really cool to see how much exertion she puts into the disc and like how much control she has of her drives.
And something else that, we're seeing out of her, for instance, is very much forehand. I don't want to say comfortable. She's just comfortable with a forehand. She seems like it makes no difference. You could just flip a coin. She's like, yeah, cool, I'll throw a forehand here. Like, she doesn't even hesitate.
Yeah, the difference I see in her, I mean, a lot of FPO players now have incorporated a sidearm to their game. But what I see that's different from her is whether she's throwing backhand or forehand, she commits to the shot 100%. Like, she's not taking any miles per hour off the disc.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she is not scared. She is fully committed when she lets the disc go. And that's, I think, how she's finding a lot of success off the tee. You'll see like example, Kona Panis. I think she has one of the best sidearms in the game, but you see her kind of back off a little bit. Like, she's not hitting it as hard as she could. And I think that's like a little bit more fear-based than Evelina's sidearm. So as, and I mean, I spoke on it already after my win. Like, Evelina is just so extremely confident in her skill set. So I think that's where you see that that coming from is just how confident she is that she's going to make the shot happen. And if she doesn't, maybe she hits a tree, and that's okay. She's still smiling.
Well, yeah. Speaking of smiling, speaking of just overall within the FPO division, it's clearly more competitive than it's ever been. I'm sure you can attest to that as you continue to get more and more challenged, but yet it still has this seemingly harmonious kind of interaction. Like, it seems like everyone enjoys each other's company, and of course, there's I'm sure a few nitpicky, little tiffs or preferences maybe of competitors, but it seems like everybody, I mean, a lot of people, viewers will say it. It looks like the women just get along and have a lot more fun out there. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think generally speaking, yeah, I would say so. I think, like, yeah, I don't know how to talk on that too much. I mean, so in our President's Cup, like, pep talk thing, Germ kind of mentioned like about the pairings. Like, he wanted Ricky and Eagle to be on the first card, and he wanted them both to be together, not only because of their skill set, but because they both have the same attitude on the course, just head down, focusing forward on the shots, and that's intimidating, and that's kind of what they're known for, and that's how they find success. And I don't think you see that as much in FPO. I think it's more of like, hey, we're hanging out, we're chatting, and yes, we're focusing when the time comes. I think the best example of that type of mindset is Missy. Even though she's known as like a super happy, smiley person, like, you're not going to catch her talking much during the round, not even to me. So she's I try, but she's like walks away, and she's like, she's already thinking about her shot, but as soon as she let her other shot go. So, and myself as well, there's times where that happens, and I feel like I am playing better golf when that happens, but it's just like, you want to have good vibes, and I think that helps each other as well. Or that just helps like push everyone to the next level. And like, Johnny V, you talked a minute ago about like how I'm watching everyone's shots and whatever, and like, I find myself when I do see a good shot and I compliment it and I talk to that person about it, or I ask them what the disc was, and hey, Cat Merch, like whatever that peach one is, oh, it's a Thunderbird, throw that on every hole. Like that disc was made for you, and when I'm giving that to her and then she finds more confidence, she's playing better, and then it makes me play better, and it makes us get more viewers, because here we are birdie, all four birding hole 14, and the men don't even do that. So I think it just helps the entire division when we are kind of, yes, we're competitors, but we're more friendly.
And I kind of always equated it to just the want for more FPO players. Like there's always kind of been this, like, we need more women, we need more women, we need more women in the FPO, we need more women in the sport in general. And I think that maybe it's a culture we've built up in the FPO field of being more open and inviting, because the MPO has never had to worry about that. The MPO, or men's in general, it's always competitive from the time you're an amateur player up through the MPO field. You never have to worry about having other competitors. There's always someone there to battle you. That's not the same way with the women. We've seen plenty of events, at least in the past locally, there might be one woman that shows up and she can play whatever division she wants. So to be more inviting, it feels like that's maybe a culture that we have blossomed in our sport for women, to be more inviting on all levels of the game. And maybe it just kind of filters up as you come up through the sport. I don't know.
Yeah, Paige, if you want more women to beat, you need to first get them there. And then...
I mean, that might not be true at all, but I'd like to think it is.
Just quickly on the President's Cup, fair to also say that it's a clear strategy that Germ wouldn't necessarily put Ricky in Paul's card, right? Is that a fair?
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, a big portion of that was like the pairings of who they wanted to be there, and James and Calvin get along well. They play similar golf. They're good friends, and so yeah, pairings were talked about big time.
Is it difficult for you to pair up? I mean, you only have one other person to pair up with. I mean, you pair up with Kat, and yet you compete with her every single weekend. Is it difficult to be on the same team and cheer for her when you're used to not cheering for her and kind of maybe being like, I'd love to get a stroke on her here?
Yeah, no, honestly, I thought it was really cool. I remember that from I guess 2019 President's Cup. It was Kat and I as well, and I remember it's so cool because like you said, like a lot of the time, like, yeah, we'll talk on a backup, or we'll talk about whatever, escape rooms or whatever else, but we're not really talking, or like maybe we'll talk about what new disc she's bagging, or like, hey, I haven't seen that one before, what's that? But that's really the extent of it. We're not really talking about game plan on a whole, oh, you chose Heiser there, why'd you do that? But in President's Cup, like, we're on the same team, and with that, like what you said, it's like we competed against each other every single week for like a decade. So like nobody knows my bag better than Katrina, or my decision making, or my discs, or anything, like. And so it was really cool to be like, hey Kat, what do you think here? Like, and to have her give me advice back and vice versa. So that was very unique and very cool.
And I think you're one of the players, maybe you and Paul, that take advice from other people more than I see on the course, especially your caddies. I feel like even caddies you don't know very much, you tend to have a good conversation with them, talk with them. Maybe Brody's in that camp now too, because I see that guy talk to his caddy like he's hosting a podcast.
Oh, definitely.
But you tend to have conversations with your caddy a lot. Did you do that with Kat? I mean, how much did that go back and forth on the President's Cup?
Yeah, there was a couple instances where she's like asking me if she should lay up on 17. Evelina had her by, I think it was 2, but Evelina still had a tricky approach left. Kat's like, should I try to throw this in? So, yeah, we talked quite a bit, and just like stability choices and layup zones, and stuff like that, we definitely talk a bit. I think with caddies, it's different. Some caddies, Alyssa, like when Alyssa has caddied for me, she calls herself a shelf, that she's not going to talk, that she's just there to carry the bag and be the physical support. But, and I've had caddies like that for sure. And it is a huge help, not picking your bag on and off your bag. Like, forget carrying it for 18 holes. It's the putting it on, taking it off, putting it on, taking it off. That is so strenuous. So that is just a huge help just for starters. But if I feel like the caddy's like really attentive and they've been my caddy for 4 days now, like, then they know what discs I've been between and why I chose this disc on day 1 and why I chose this disc on day 2, what that wind was doing, like, oh, hey, remember you left that one a little bit short, maybe you want to club up. Like, so just the attentiveness, I think. And then also just like, obviously if it's someone that I respect their game, that goes a lot farther. Like, I know if they make good decisions themselves, it's another like check mark of why I would take your advice, I guess.
Yeah, just thinking like Ricky's on your bag and he's just like, I run everything. It doesn't matter really.
Go for it.
He might not be the best.
Well,
also a good caddy isn't telling you like what I would do is this.
No, that's the dumbest comment ever. Yeah.
And I want them to know what they would do if they were not if I was throwing the shot, but what I would do if I was Paige Pierce. Like,
yes.
I want them to know my game.
So let's flip this on its head. What kind of caddy are you? Because you caddied for Kevin Jones on 3rd and 4th round, or just 4th round?
Yeah.
3rd and 4th.
3rd and 4th. That's what I thought. What type of caddy were you to Kevin? Was there a lot of talk? Did Kevin kind of just already have a game plan? And why Kevin?
Kevin's like one of my best friends in the world, and
I know that,
but yeah, I think it's different for everyone. You kind of have to, like, yes, there's things that you should definitely do as a caddy, but there's other things that are player preference. So for me, like when I'm caddying, it's kind of just like keep your mouth shut unless they are talking to you about something like a disc choice or something like that. Like, do not offer any advice on that. They will ask you if they want to be asked, or if they want advice. And other than that, it's just kind of like reassuring. And with Kev specifically, like, he's the hype man, you got to keep him hype, and he's gonna get every birdie possible. So if he's feeling it, keep him on that level. And if he's not feeling it, get him to that level. So,
Okay.
yeah, whether that's like singing a little song he likes or just, he left himself short on one hole and I'm like, all right, time for a jump putt Jones. And, he goes from not being excited about leaving himself short to being like, hell yeah, I'm about to make this jump putt right here. So,
yeah. It's funny, even after the President's Cup, even after all of these friendships, and we see all, so many of all of you kind of caravan, regardless of sponsors, regardless of all that and what plastic you're throwing, you guys get together, you're all good friends, but yet the internet, because it's the internet, some people found it odd, like, oh, did you think it's weird that a Discraft sponsored player is on a Prodigy guy's bag? And it's like, no, like you just said, you're good friends. It's really, really simple, but some people just have to think everything means something else, and clearly it doesn't. But it was the only question I have about it is just from even remotely a fatigue factor of, like, it's not as physically demanding playing that course probably as it is a mental battle, because there's so many challenges out there, but none of that got in your way, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I averaged 9.5 miles a day while I was in Finland.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the days that I wasn't caddying too. So I was like, yeah, I would love to go watch Kev shred some golf. He told me it would help him out. And, yeah, so it was no problem. And like I said, a lot of it is just taking the bag on and off and ripping a shot at 70 miles an hour every single hole. So, like, when you're not having to throw or take the bag on and off. It's honestly not so bad.
Yeah, it's kind of like a walk in the park.
Yeah, you may have. Yeah, exactly. You may have sore muscles, but sore heels.
Well, I of course, Kevin, I'm sure appreciate it. Have you ever? And this isn't even much of a sideways thought, really, but because we were talking about you and Kat, have you ever looked at the stats on Statmando with the two of you? You're one of the example stats, right? When you pull up the website, because you guys are so legendary.
Yeah, I actually looked at it recently, like 2 weeks ago or something.
Okay, so it shows in your favor, 114 wins to 72 times you've lost against her, and 5 ties is what it shows you.
Well, I thought it was interesting.
She's won all those ties. Oh no, I beat her once at Jonesboro or Idlewild, but I think she's won the other 4 playoffs that we.
Okay.
I saw a more interesting stat that isn't obviously shown on here, unless you can just go on this year and not overall, because I think I saw that up until I think the 3rd round, you guys had on events you guys have played together this year. You guys were each at like 4,300 and some odd strokes throughout the year between you and Kat up until
like the identical stroke count.
Identical stroke count up until I think the 3rd round at European Open.
Wow.
And in events you guys have
like random stat. Like
that's what these guys do.
Different tournaments. It's like I don't pay.
No, these are this is only in events you guys have shared and played together.
Oh,
and, yeah. Wow. So that's like. So overall, in all the events that you guys have shared together this year, up until I think the 3rd round at EO, the exact same amount of strokes as each other. So
wow,
kind of
pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's and these guys, I mean, that's their job, is to pull up weird stats that, and they just feed them to our commentators, and the commentators sound smart. And
sometimes it helps us. Sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, there's only so much help we can get sometimes. Well, yeah, it's crazy to see that when you look at your overall careers when you guys go head to head, 114, 72, and 5. In your favor. 85. You have 85 wins to her 51. You guys have 53. You have 53 seconds to her 51 seconds. So almost the exact same times. And then you have 20 third place finishes to her 29. So, yeah. Anyway, it's like you said, it's people punching up numbers all to make things a little bit more spicy and interesting to reference.
That's pretty cool, though.
It really is, yeah. I had something else that I can't think of right now. So, are there things we need to cover that you want to talk about before we let you go? I mean, we don't want to keep you too much later. And is there anything else you want to talk about? Oh, that's what I thought of.
The documentary. What's going on with that? We have. I mean,
just wait. I'm going to set something else up.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I heard a secret about the documentary, which I'm guessing is a secret. So I don't know if that's a Smashbox exclusive that can be announced now, or if that's still a secret. What I heard about it from the man himself. What do you know? Willie sent me a text.
Oh, nice. Well, yes, there is huge documentary news coming on Thursday on my Instagram.
Okay.
But I mean, I want you guys to hear it from me first, but I guess you're still hearing it from me.
Well, I'll hear it from Terry. Everyone else will hear it from you. Just give us a hint.
Okay, yeah, post it in the morning. Okay.
All right, Smashbox exclusive, ladies and gentlemen. Here it goes.
Documentary will be released on August 11th. August 11th.
Where?
Disc Golf Network.
Okay. Awesome. So it's a Disc Golf Network exclusive for now. Great.
Yeah, not exclusive, but yeah, more info. But basically, it's a little frustrating, but the documentary's been done for like half a year, probably. But we were waiting this whole time. Wilson is an incredible filmmaker. But he's not I guess, what is that called? Like a consultant or like someone that's distributor. There it is. Distributor or consultant. So like we get the movie done and we're like high-fiving, screaming hooray and all this stuff. And then we're like, wow, we got a long way to go just to like get this thing seen. And, long story short, but if we could have just had it seen when it was done, you guys could have been watching this 6 months ago. And we tried to avoid doing it on Disc Golf Network because the whole reason I wanted to make this documentary was so that the world can see disc golf, not the disc golf world. Like the people that are subscribed to Disc Golf Network already know disc golf. They already love it. So that wasn't my intention. But now, after talking to multiple consultants and distributors and all of these things, we need to get the movie seen by people that are willing to pay for it. And so when you have a subscription on DGN, you're obviously paying for this service. And since you have to pay for Netflix or pay for Amazon Prime or pay for Hulu or any of these platforms, they basically told us it doesn't matter if you have 50,000, or what was it? It doesn't matter if you have 50 million free views of this movie. We would rather have 50,000 paid views. So like to gather all the analytics and analytics, we need people to pay to watch it. Otherwise Netflix will not be interested whatsoever. So that's okay. But it's just like, I wish I could have gave it to you guys sooner. If we knew we had to put it on DGN, we could have done it. So, but anyway, it's August 11th. It's right around the corner, so it's okay. But just, to all the people that supported and helped out with the funding and stuff, it's like, man, you guys have been asking for months and we could have gave it to you sooner. But anyway, it's right around the corner and it's a great film. I just watched it again recently and I'm very happy with it. So I'm excited for the world to see it. And for all of you all that are on Disc Golf Network, and if you're not, sign up for Disc Golf Network. Please, please, please. We got to get this thing on Netflix. It would be awesome. So
are they going to offer, do you know if Disc Golf Network is going to offer a pay-per-view version of it? So if there are some people
will only be pay-per-view. Yeah.
Oh, it will only be, so it will not be, because there's Disc Golf Network where you can be a subscriber and watch it. Or they can offer pay-per-view, so it's going to be strictly pay-per-view. Is that what I'm hearing? Or if you're a Disc Golf Network subscriber, you get to watch it.
We have another meeting tomorrow, so
okay, we'll figure that out.
Yeah,
we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, people. Stay tuned. It'll all be cleared up, I'm sure.
Well, weekly updates until... and then we'll bring you popcorn and everybody can watch it.
That's right.
Well, you guys are actually invited to the viewing party, which I'll send you details of.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Next week.
Okay. Yeah, I got a message when I was in Finland from Wilson, and then I feel bad because we text back and forth 1 or 2 times, and then I fell off because I was doing a million things, and it just was really exciting news, and I didn't honestly know to what extent any of it was public or not, and so I'm glad we could hear it directly from you because I didn't want to say anything to the rest of the world without talking to you. So.
Well, thank you, Terry.
Sometimes my big mouth can actually be quiet, believe it or not. I can keep secrets pretty well.
Yeah.
All right, Paige. It was awesome. Oh, I do have one little request. It's kind of a big one, but it's kind of a little one. If you could do me a favor, and when we're doing, especially all of your champion interviews, if you could not get emotional, that'd be great, because that kind of makes things really tough for me, because I feel that. And I'm right there with you, and I'm totally kidding, of course. But
what's wrong with emotions, Terror Bear?
What's that?
What's wrong with emotions?
There's nothing wrong with them. And
his makeup runs. That's really
exactly.
the problem.
I'm not worried about having emotions, and I have plenty of times with you guys. I think the world knows. The world will accuse me of always rooting for you too hard or something. I don't know, but it's awesome. And I tell you at every event, it's awesome to see the success. And I know how hard you work and all the things that you've gone through to arrive at the place where you have as, the best disc golfer we've seen. So it was awesome to be there for this one, especially on foreign soil and you taking down another major. Like I said, one of these days will count, but I think I've been around for about 12 out of your 17 And they've, yeah, it's been
Terry,
awesome.
you're the OG FPO supporter.
Well,
I
it's
definitely
easy.
know that. You've been around for a bit, and it's been so awesome.
Well, it's easy to cheer on you and so many of the others, and it's just crazy where the division has come from and where it continues to go. You know, you guys fighting for more spots, getting more spots at events, you guys getting bigger paychecks,
And
getting more
I don't know if you
recognition.
noticed, Terry, but did you notice on the first day of the European Open, the stage with the big scoreboard?
Yep, yeah.
Did
You
you
guys were not on there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
damn,
And guess
that better
who?
change.
Yep. And guess who got that changed? Boop, boop.
I love it. I swear to God, I thought the exact same thing. I'm like,
I
don't
what?
Yeah, I was like, I don't like this message that they're sending by having the men's blank scoreboard up instead of having women with the women's scores on it.
Totally. I got onto him day one. I was like, that better be changed tomorrow. And sometimes you gotta do that.
Gotta put your foot down sometimes. That's awesome.
Good. Because I noticed it on days 2, 3, and 4. I'm like, okay, that looks right. But I swear to God, I walked up 18. I'm like, no, that's a swing and a miss. I swear I thought that, and so I'm glad that you were the one that got that changed.
Yeah,
nice.
It was good. It was good,
and deservedly so. All right, Paige. I don't know if you've got sponsors you want to again shout out or people or anything. Go for it.
That was kind of going to be my little thing. Oh, but I did have a big drop on my website on Friday, so we have some stuff left. I just got Fierces, but they're mini ones. So for any kiddos, or just like if you want to use it as a mini, or if you just like playing catch with little mini discs, those are super fun. And then I just released some soles and fly dye. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Wow, guys. This is awesome. Those shirts aren't new. Actually, I just changed out of that shirt. But yeah, I got some fly dye soles and some jawbreaker zones. I'm throwing both of those right now. So yeah, check them out.
Jawbreaker zone on hole 1, right? That's what I saw.
And I got some, if any of you that are watching are in Michigan, or if you know anybody that's going to be at D-Glow, I have a limited release going on at this event, only 200 passions, and they are only available at D-Glow. So if you're going to be there, come see me on Friday after my round at the Discraft booth, or if you're not going to be there, call a friend that's going to be here and see if they can grab you one.
Get there before Terry, because he will buy them out.
I bought them I bought the limit back at the Champions Cup, and so hold on to 3 of them for old Tear Bear. I'll buy 3 more.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for having me. I always like chatting with you guys about Frisbees, and I'll see you, Terry, this weekend.
Yeah, you'll see me. I'm assuming you're in the press conference, because you always are. And
yep.
I will then, that means I will see you on Thursday at the presser, and we'll talk, and I'll reword all these questions. No, we'll talk.
And we'll have fun.
All right. Thank you, Paige. Congrats. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
And get some good rest.
Good night, Paige.
Bye-bye.
See ya. All righty. Paige Pierce.
17-time major winner, Paige Pierce.
That's not too shabby.
I believe she's tied with Paul at 17.
I think that's the number. Sure.
And Climo's at 19.
Yeah.
And again, there's Doss had said it. It's not exactly a fair comparison because there were so many less majors for
correct. And an Elaine King and a Juliana Korver.
It's the same thing.
But yes, regardless,
you can only
break the records that are in front of you.
That's right. You can't hold that against them. It's unfortunate that there weren't the number of players or events or whatnot. But 17-time major winner, Paige Pierce. What a amazing feat.
It is incredible. And I think Paul on the board had asked if I could name them all. I could not. I would have to do some serious math, but and think about it really hard. But yeah, I think at one point we kind of loosely, I think maybe when I was talking to Wilson for the documentary is when I kind of reflected back and was thinking about all of her major titles. And of course, I think I was there for every one of them except for the couple that she's won overseas.
The European ones.
And, those are the only ones that...
Did she win Australia, or did Val win that?
Val...
The Australian Open
won that one.
I thought so. I couldn't remember if Paige even went over for that.
I feel like Val won that. I think she's got the didgeridoo, but that might not have been for first. But either way, yeah, the only ones I don't remember are the ones I weren't at, which I think would be fair. So anyway,
let's talk about MPO, Terry.
I guess.
I mean, listen.
They played 2.
They did play 2, and they deserve to be talked about a little bit. I mean, we already had the best. Now let's get the rest. Okay.
Yes.
Eagle McMahon takes home his second major, only 15 behind Paige Pierce now.
Yep.
He's working on it. Besting Paul McBeth by a single stroke, in case you didn't know. And then 17 ahead of Kevin Jones.
Wow. Like they were in another tournament almost.
Well, if you watched Paul on hole 18 on the final round, it did feel that way because Chandler Kramer had the box and Eagle had the box, went up and through. Chandler Kramer stepped up, or was supposed to step up, but Paul just walked up right in front of him, not even realizing that other people were in this event because he was probably in such a zone at that point that it only felt like him and Eagle. Like everyone else kind of vanished away.
Yeah, well,
figuratively and literally, practically, score-wise, because nobody could keep up. Not a single soul. It was what a feat between those two. An amazing showing. I think Paul was like 1072 rated average and lost, and Eagle was like 1074 or something. Just one single stroke. Anywhere in the weekend.
Think you could find one?
I think he can find at least a handful of them just on the final round. The one thing I noticed, and I mentioned to you right before the broadcast started, I recall 4 different times where Eagle had the tee or was in front of McBeth, probably had the tee, and made a mistake. And I think only one of those 4 times Paul was able to take advantage of that mistake. Like, where you walk up to a hole and you think, this is where I can get one back because Eagle hit a tree or Eagle went out of bounds to the right. I'm sure there's more than that, but there's 3 distinct ones I recall, and I'm like, yeah, Paul just missed an opportunity there. And I'm sure, Eagle could go back through his rounds and say, oh, I missed 3 or 4 strokes here, whatever. But I'm talking specifically when the door was open a bit for Paul and he couldn't take advantage of that for whatever reason, whether he was throwing, he threw it too low on 15, or, he threw his on, I think it was the 3rd round, he threw his buzz and he flipped over into the bushes on that same hole. And just, there were so many opportunities that just slipped away from Paul to take this away from Eagle. The thing was, Eagle wasn't letting him. Just
I mean,
a phenomenal performance, all backhand too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, and at one point, keeping in mind that Paul early on had a 2-stroke lead between the two of them, and like you said, I mean, Paul had opportunities, Eagle had opportunities. They both did, and when it all, no surprise to a lot, when it all came down to it, it was in fact the last 4 holes that made essentially the major difference here. And you always think, fair or not, you always think about, well, of course, the last ones are the holes that you think about the most, simply because that's what closes out the event. But
those are also the 4 hardest holes on the course.
Exactly.
So that's different. If these were 3 easy holes in a 4th hole, and a hard hole where all 3 of them birdied in a par, then those holes don't really quote unquote decide the event, even though they always do. Every hole decides an event, just what order we put them in. But these are the 4 hardest holes. These are the holes where mistakes can be made, where Eagle goes out of bounds and has to rethrow on 16, where McBeth just, ultimately throws it out of bounds on 17. He and In the third round on 17, Eagle shanked it to the right and somehow made it through every tree and landed at dead center of the fairway. That could have easily been a 2-stroke swing. And I don't want to say the Eagle was getting breaks because I watched Paul get some good breaks too. Those two were playing well and getting the occasional break. It was nice. It didn't feel like somebody was luckier than another person in this event.
No.
It was two heavyweights battling it out, stroke for stroke, almost that entire round. And it was one of the more fun events to watch and broadcast.
What wasn't fun was walking through all those damn people out there that were in my way. It was
tough problems to have,
I know,
brother.
and that's what I was going to say. It was such a funny experience of being like, at one time I got done with one of the particular holes, and I remember just being like, excuse me, like I couldn't get through the sea. I mean, you guys saw it probably from the drone shots, how many people were out there, and you know, you'd get to, because normally I'm positioning myself 2/3 of the way or all the way at the green, 2/3 of the way down the hole or at the green, and you'd get there and there'd be 6, 7, 8 people deep. And then in English, I'm like, excuse me. And yeah, just kind of sifting through everybody. And then, you know how many times I felt bad getting through everyone, and they're all perfectly, like, right on the OB line, like, just absolutely perfectly lined up. And I'd ask to get through them all, and then I'd be able to jump 5 feet in front of all that, and then I'd get the most perfect view. And every time I'd look behind me, and I wouldn't ever try to stand. Clearly, I'd be blocking somebody. I'm not a small guy, but I would try my best to not intentionally block, a
child.
Somebody who's been sitting there in like a chair, and they probably were positioned there for the last, 4 hours waiting over all these groups. And
hey, excuse me, sir, can you stand up? And then you plop down in his chair.
I'm not
okay,
trying
cool,
to.
thanks, here.
So believe it or not, I actually feel bad about that, but it was so insane sifting through so many people to then. And there were a few times where it's like, I don't necessarily need to be in the front of the line or in the fairway to see what's happening here. And just like everyone else, I stand in line and I'm just kind of watching over a shoulder. It was surreal.
5,500 people on that final round is the estimate.
Yeah, that's the only.
The hard part, it's a public park, so there's no way to count heads. It really is an estimate. Because you can come in from the park from basically anywhere.
Yeah.
And so there's no good way to actually, I saw you see tagging people like with number 1, number 2.
Yeah, I wish there was any form of and even if it's a whole nother issue, but if there were even like 3 or 4 like must access points where you could just only be doing it for counting perspective, like 3 or 4 semi-gated areas where it's like, hey, you have to go through here, like you said, just so we can like unofficially tag that you're here or present. But anyway, yeah, 5,500 was the number that UC had published today. In fact, I think he had published, I screenshot it somewhere, and I don't know where I put it, so I'm going to see if I can find it quickly. He had made the post, here it is, I believe.
There's like
Wednesday for President's Cup. This is, as he writes, our daily attendant estimates. He said Wednesday for President's Cup 2,000, first round 2,000, Friday second round 2,500, Saturday 3,500, Sunday 5,500. He could be within 7 people, and that could be dead accurate. He could be off by 1,700 people. We don't know. I'm gonna trust his estimates because I have no better, more obvious way to trust anything else. So, and he's been obviously running this event and part of this event for a decade now. So it was, I haven't looked at 1 second of live coverage, but I was hearing when, we were talking about going to the drone shot, and I am kind of excited to go look and see what it looked like from an overview perspective, because I'm kind of short. So when I'd kind of stick my camera up to take a picture,
you see unless they were on
the hill, I see like 7 people behind me. But unless they were on a hill, it didn't do a lot of good. So very, very.
That was one of the things that Mo had said, and we all kind of agreed upon, was on that final day, you can't take these drone shots enough. Not only were we getting them so you could see the number of people, you could see the layout of the holes as always, but at one point, whenever we weren't live with it, they were taking photos from the drone for advertisement shots and things like that.
Sure.
Like just, hey, look at disc golf, look at the people, this and that. It's, I mean, it was phenomenal.
Yeah. So, with regard to that, that's what the estimates were. We had such a great, the gallery, no surprise, not only it was the largest for the MPOs on Sunday afternoon, but also the FPO gallery was one of the larger galleries I think we've ever seen at any event as well earlier in the day. And it was really cool to see. So, nice work. I was just going to answer a quick question or two here that Phil Mills had asked, and it was that hole one catch cam TV in person. Catch cam TV.
How was it?
How was it? Oh, it was really cool. And again, that was something that had nothing to do with our production. You didn't have a feed to that, right?
No, not at all.
We
there were some talks originally that they were going to have some closed circuit cameras, and I believe that was the only one that ended up happening. And whether or not we could somehow integrate those into our system. And ultimately, nothing ever came of it. Either they weren't being pushed out to the internet, it was probably just local, and so we couldn't get access to that feed, but they were able to get access to our feed and watch it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was a GoPro mounted in a tree or a trail cam or what it was hooked up to or how it was ultimately installed or even where it was. I never looked, honestly. It was definitely a little bit wider angle. So it could have been some kind of hardwired GoPro or something or whatever it was. It doesn't matter. It was a really cool shot that all of the players relied on. And that was one of the unique features as a player would throw. They'd watch it, but then at some point they'd then realize like, oh yeah, I can watch it if it comes in on the big screen next to the tee. It was a really cool feature.
It was fun to watch the players
react.
Turn and watch it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like
they would throw it and then just turn to watch where it landed. And
yeah.
But my favorite. So Kevin Jones takes third. Nicolas Antilla takes fourth. Chandler Kramer, the new rock star, takes fifth. But my favorite shots of the entire weekend were by, I believe it is, I'm looking it up here. Is he? Oh, he must not made the cut on round 3. I think is it Elias Grippler? Yeah, Elias Grippler.
Oh,
have you seen those videos, Terry?
I did make I did see those on the internet.
He had 2 of the most iconic shots of the European Open on hole 1, catching the left side of the triple mando, bouncing off and hitting the car.
Yep.
You hear like thump, and then on another hole, him trying to throw it very hard and almost decapitating spectators. Just having some grip issues with the last name Grippler. The jokes only write themselves.
Yeah.
So I think those were those are the 2 shots I'm going to remember the most here out of this weekend. Poor Elias.
He's out of Sweden.
Yeah. Yes, he is out of Sweden. So and he did not make the cut, but ultimately made a name for himself.
Well, that might have kept some people safer.
Probably.
Like, we're gonna need you.
We've got 5,000 people today. Sorry, Elias.
Yes, because your odds
of
hitting someone just went up by like 200%. So, it is what it is.
But what overall, great event, phenomenal. Just the play was great. The course seemed to be in great condition. A little bit of weather that they had to deal with. You know, some rain off and on. Some of the hardest rain that I heard the cameramen ever had to deal with.
Yeah, they were huge drops
for about like
heavy.
An hour or 45 minutes or something. Just the cameramen were soaked. And at one point I heard, I think Sam had said like, that is the heaviest rain I've ever shot in my entire life.
Yeah, it was definitely during the FPO round number 3, and specifically we were on holes 7 and 8, and I very distinctly recall just how hard that rain was coming down, and it wasn't painful, but it just felt like they were the biggest raindrops ever, so they felt that much heavier and harder as they were hitting you. Thankfully, it let up, and it was hit or miss throughout the day then, but when it was all said and done, the fact that we had 3 out of 4 rounds that were rainless was insane. And I know it was talked about, but they actually had heat warnings in Finland because the temperatures were like 82 to 85 to 87.
It seems
And
so.
they had legitimate heat advisory warnings for the people of Finland during those days because they are not used to it being that warm. And yeah, I mean, of course, it was like a warm, hot day here that we'd experience in most of the U.S. during this month, but for them, certainly not what they were expecting. And it was hot. And it was a little bit stifling on the first couple of days. So, yeah, as Hannah Macbeth had told me just before I went to the event, she said, pack like you're going to Oregon. Like it could be rainy and cold and wet all 4 days. Just plan on that. And to the point where I even invested in a brand new raincoat.
You did? Did you get to use it?
I did very much so on that third round.
Good for you.
The other 3 rounds, not so much. So
at least
I guess I'll take that as a win, but
I mean, then you can just return it after only one use.
That's a good call.
Pull the old college move, like just buy it and return it, man.
So, but the weather was very cooperative throughout, which was pretty cool. So,
other news that I think we kind of do you want to talk about the Nico thing, or do you want to talk about something else first?
Well, I was just gonna say Chandler Kramer, clearly another big storyline of the weekend. And if you watch the PCS Sula Open, you really got a taste of and your first probably real sight of Chandler there. Mm-hmm. He's been at other Pro Tour events, he's cashed at other events, so on and so forth. But seeing him back-to-back weeks, talk about having your greatest week ever. Like you have coverage
from Wednesday to the next Sunday.
Yeah, you have coverage of you at PCS Sula because you've done well. He didn't totally fall apart. You know, he didn't play his greatest golf, whatever. But then a week later or a few days later in another foreign country to you then play and finish 5th at a major, a feat 99 point blank amount of people will never capture in their life. And this guy who's been playing 2 years comes out and does it.
Yeah, we'll try to get him on the podcast at some point in the next, hopefully maybe the next couple of weeks. I know it's relatively busy. We've got a lot of winners coming up, but if not, he's definitely one of those characters that I could see getting in the off season to chat with in general, and as one of the, I mean, for your and my age, one of the best Tour Series stamps.
Oh, I haven't even seen that.
His name's Chandler Kramer, Terry. Can you take a wild guess as to what the stamp looks like?
CK34 at AOL.com.
No, that's Chuck Kennedy.
Oh, okay.
I
don't think I've seen it, but then again, it's a fair statement that I am not up on every single tour player's.
No, but with a name like Chandler Kramer.
Yeah, I can imagine it has a very Calvin Klein look to it.
No, complete opposite. Oh. It has a very Friends and Seinfeld look to it.
Okay, there you go. That also makes perfect sense.
Chandler from Friends, Kramer from Seinfeld. He's got the 2 names.
Okay.
And there were a lot of people that weren't sure if this was his actual tour stamp disc. Like, it looks like a fake for some people. Like, they would never do that. But ultimately, this is his disc. It was sold out, thankfully, for him. And I believe they just got it back in stock. So if you want to get a copy of the Chandler Kramer disc, by all means,
there you go.
Go out and do it.
Get yourself a Warbird.
Yep.
This is not a paid advertisement.
Not at all. Not at all. But
by our friends at Lone Star Disc. But if Lone Star, you want to give me a Tour Series disc, I'm
like
listening.
A Terry Miller one or a Chandler Kramer one?
Both. We could talk about it.
Yeah, we'll get it. So
yeah, just I mean, I think he won 35 on our airport ride together. He was telling me he was unsure if he'd have to pay taxes, a certain amount of taxes because of whatever the rules are in Finland, blah blah blah. But I think he said he won $3,500. Is it listed on there? It doesn't have payout.
It doesn't have payout on here yet.
Why not? That's weird. But
the event is not complete. Once it completes, they'll usually put the payout. Sometimes they do beforehand, but not always.
It should be complete. Anyway, I believe he said he won $3,500 there, and the previous weekend $1,500. So winning $5,000 overseas
almost pays for your trip.
Yeah. Yeah. So nice work by Chandler Kramer, and clearly we're going to be hearing more about him. I mean, you can't just jump onto the scene, have that kind of success without having some form of longevity that goes along with it.
He's clearly on the way up. He's one of those players where it feels like his rating is behind his talent still because he's been moving so quickly up the rank, much like Brody was for a while. Because he's only rated 1,017, but he's been playing like 1040 golf. Let's see here, 1041, 1071, 1034, and then he dropped off at the last round with a 1012. He had a rough final round, but ultimately, averaging 1030 some, 1040-ish golf, you can't complain about that. So I think that we'll see much more of him. I did grab him for my fantasy team. So I keep it up, Chandler. I got you starting at D-Glow, so please play well there. Let's quickly, and we don't need to harp on it too much, let's quickly talk about Nico. The world has seen the footage that happened in the third round of the European Open, of Nico getting called on a time violation. And for a little bit of quick backstory, I believe they were all told, the entire group was told before the round. And then on hole 7, Nico and Chandler were both warned for excessive time. Chandler, who we just got finished talking about, apparently, quote unquote, cleaned up his routine, got it under the 30 seconds. But my understanding is, after hearing some things, that Nico continued to take longer than the allotted time for a few more holes. And upwards of a minute or 45 seconds a few times. And then finally on hole 18, he had taken over a minute, and the official comes up, shows him the cell phone, the timer he had on him. And at that point, we all saw the video. Nico kind of got into his face and was yelling.
Aggressive.
Aggressive is a word to put. Yeah, he was yelling. And then there was obviously Nico following him around and staring, and, intimidation, things of that nature. The tournament disqualified Nico, and that's kind of where it stands at this point. There has been nothing. There has been a statement from the PDGA, more or less saying that this is going to be moved to the disciplinary committee.
Well, it'll get forwarded on as all DQs,
as
I think,
all
are.
Disqualifications are.
Yeah. Not that this one's any more or less egregious or special or different than any other disqualification. If you got disqualified from a tournament tomorrow for literally any reason, you would then also, it would get forwarded on to the
standard operating procedure.
Yeah. So just to make that very clear.
Nico has come out to, first of all, apologize, which was, I think, very sincere. And he made another post saying he's going to be taking a break from touring while he goes and apparently seeks help of some sort. So for now, that's where we stand. I don't believe there is much else to the story that's public, that can be made public, or that isn't already public.
Yeah, the only thing I would tack on to that,
sure,
which, first of all, I don't think a lot of people knew or realized, for starters, that there was another... Well, a lot of people didn't realize there was a warning earlier in the round.
Correct.
Just to throw that out there. A lot of people had no idea. They thought somehow this was the first situation, and it was not.
No, the official had said something, but it was a little bit, I don't want to say broken English. He's from the Czech Republic, I believe, so it might have been a little difficult to understand what he had said to Nico, but clearly, as we said on hole 7, there were multiple warnings handed out, not just to Nico, but to Chandler as well.
Yeah. So for starters, that was one of the big, I think, clarifications that was definitely worth making, is that it followed a warning. It was in addition to a warning that was issued earlier, and then also the fact that Chandler had been issued a warning also, I think, is very much not nearly as public as I wish that it was, just for to kind of reaffirm the idea that Mate, who is the PDGA
tour director of Europe, is that
he's something like that. He has a high.
He's not just a volunteer.
Yeah. He is a high-profiled European PDGA representative. I don't want to get too worked up, so don't let me. This was not a witch hunt. This was not a singling out of any one or two people. This was simply applying the rules. Does every single person that speed get pulled over and get ticketed? No. You speed enough times, you raise your chances and the likelihood of getting pulled over and or getting a ticket. Do other people speed? Yes. Does everybody get pulled over and get a ticket? No. Did Nico this time go over? Yes. Do other MPO and FPO players go over the time limit? Absolutely. I've got lots of examples that are recorded. They're breaking the rules just as much. I'm in agreement with all of that. But if you think Matej or anyone woke up that morning is like, by golly, at the most inopportune or opportune time, depending how dumb you want to make your statement, I'm gonna find him on 18, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm issuing him a stroke on 18 of round 3. You're just stupid. There have been. I was so good with the way most of this was going because it felt like a genuine consensus that he was over the line, which he admitted he was, that Nico did. But then to finally now more and more people filtering on and trying to make up every excuse that not even Nico's making, just shut up. Like, I'm sorry.
I saw a little bit of it early on, people like coming to his defense, which that's fine. Everyone has their right for their perspective, but and I have seen a little bit more of it lately. I don't think there's a lot of it, but it's out there.
They think, but there's so many people that think this was a targeted, specific witch hunt on Nico, and it just wasn't. And yes, there were other officials covering other holes. Was every hole covered with an official? Of course there wasn't. That's not remotely practical at this point. Is every rule violation? Guess what? I saw somebody on the lead card foot fault and step on their disc at one point when they shouldn't have. It didn't get called. Like, I'm not implying or suggesting that everything's perfect. However, as I said, there is an element here of rolling the dice and increasing your probabilities. If you break any given rule enough times, eventually somebody's going to take note of it. And in all fairness, I think the last time we had Nico on the show, I think his statement was when I asked him about breaking that he knows he's breaking the 30-second rule.
Get on the lead
he
card
said,
and call
get
me,
on
bro.
the lead card or get on my card. Get good. Get on my card and call me on it. That's what I want all you keyboard warriors to do. Well, Matej's far from a keyboard warrior and has no ill will or intentions toward Nico, but he did exactly as Nico asked him to do.
Well, he wasn't actually on the card, but he was following the card.
Well, he was following the card, and that's my point.
Card.
And he called him on it. So quit with somebody. I read somebody, they should have told him after the round.
No, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. Learn the rules. Like, there's just so many dumb things that I eventually read that I didn't think I was going to.
I'm going to mute your microphone now. No, I muted it. You're down. I told you said not to let you go too long, so your microphone is muted.
Here's what I will say, though.
Okay, microphone's unmuted.
I appreciate the hell out of Nico and what he said. I do feel like he was sincere.
I do, too.
I feel like he was very genuine in how he said it. And with all of that being said, we all know actions speak louder than words. So when he comes back and hopefully stays within 30 seconds, that's one start. And then secondly, doesn't ever, come with that sort of aggression toward really anyone, not toward a spotter, not towards a tournament official, not towards a fellow competitor. Those actions, not towards a cameraman.
I'll say media.
When all of those are in line and he continues to not display those types of behaviors, I'm good with it. He made a mistake. I think lots of people, myself included, can completely forgive him for it, and you can move on. I've got no problem with that. Like I said, I feel like his apology was legitimate and sincere, and all we can do is wait and see now. He has to back up his apology with his behaviors.
Let's speculate. Do you think that he will get some sort of suspension from the PDGA?
Speaking as none other than just myself, Terry Miller, I believe there will be some form of suspension. That's nothing more than pure speculation. I've talked to exactly 0 PDGA representatives about it, and quite frankly, I don't want to because I don't want to have any more knowledge of it. I think he will with
we don't
the
even
situation.
know if the PDGA has even truly the disciplinary committee has even talked about it yet.
Yeah, that I don't even know.
Yeah,
either,
we don't know
course.
any of that. I would.
It could be a probation. Well, let's put it this way. In my guess, and you served on the committee. I never have.
I did.
The disciplinary committee. I'm guessing it will be a minimum of a probation of some sorts, whether that's 3, 6, or 12 months. That would be the bare minimum. And then I'm just guessing there will be some form of suspension. Now, whether that's 6 months, 3, 6, or 12 months, I don't know what the variations are. I don't know what are the criteria for any of that. This is just me purely speculating as a guy who's never been suspended.
And it's been close to a decade since I've been on the disciplinary committee. So I don't know what it entails now. Most of the people that I were on with probably aren't on it even anymore themselves. So I don't know what the set standards are. I see someone on the board say, what I think I would like to see is maybe, I don't know, like is the wrong word, but what I think is maybe fair would be something like a 6-month suspension and then probation for the next year. But assuming he can prove that he has gone to some sort of therapist, counseling, anger management, whatever you want to do. I believe that's something similar to what they did for Bradley Williams back in the day. So just basing it off of that, I think that this would kind of run maybe parallel to that. But I don't know. If this is truly maybe his first time in front of the disciplinary committee, which very well could be, maybe he just gets probation right away, and then also something like that. We're going to find out. It might, it might be weeks or months before the disciplinary committee can get together and, decide and look at history, and they've got standards and all that other stuff. So when it happens, you'll hear it here. So for now, we will just leave the story as it is and wish nothing but the best of luck to Nico in everything that he hopefully seeks help for himself.
Yeah. All we can do is wait and see. And like you said, some people are comparing it or saying not to compare it or whatever with Bradley Williams and some, we'll say, aggressive or type behavior from a few years ago. I don't necessarily, it's funny enough that's not even really my baseline, as you're saying. I just think from a generic perspective, somebody had also mentioned like a 14-day suspension. I don't think those even really exist in disc golf.
I don't believe so.
And I don't know if that they would just make one up. I would doubt they would just implement one that's never existed before. I feel like
different classes of like A, B, C, and D of tiers, so
severity
to speak, severity
and
things like that. And each one, I think, comes with general recommendations and whatnot. So if you're interested, reach out to the PDGA on how the disciplinary committee works, or look it up on pdga.com. It might be out there somewhere.
Yeah, and the one thing I would disagree with that I've seen a lot of as well is I don't think personally that this is a scenario of, well, it's been happening for so long, therefore we now are going to make a bigger example out of this. I don't know if retroactive is quite the word I'm looking for. I don't feel it's in that sense.
No, this was
an
unique
incident that happened that was just cut and dry. He happened to already be known for it, but it was cut and dry in this scenario, in this weekend, by someone who never really even sees him hardly in person, and it was just cut and dry and an easy decision for him to make this call. This isn't this has been building up for 6 months.
But this really has nothing to do with the call.
That's true.
Like the call,
and I think that's a great distinction to make for a lot of people. I agree.
The time violation was earned. It was seen. Everybody knows it.
But other people take too much time.
None of that matters, though. It was everything. It was the minute he was called on it. Everything after that is the reason why we're talking about this. If he took that time violation it was just like, even if he just got grumbly about it, like, okay, dude, whatever, and moved on.
Correct.
Even if he
none of this conversation
even if
would be happening.
Kind of maybe like said a word or two or jawed at him, none of this would be happening. It was the aggressiveness at which he had done it in the face whatever, following him around the fairway, all that stuff. That is what got him to this position, not the time violation. The time violation was just the spark, that set off this dynamite, I guess I would call it.
So from to maybe put a bow on this, then the remaining question is, what was the conversation like within the control room, minding that there's 4 or 6 or 10 different people involved, from cameramen to you to our producer? I mean, there's a number of people involved, and so what was the conversation like as it came to light?
So behind the scenes, we were on, or that group was on the 18th green, putting, and one of the cameramen over comms basically just said, "Hey, there was a call, there was a penalty, I think, or a disciplinary call against Nico after his approach." That's all we heard, which is
very pertinent and legitimate information.
And so they tap out or something. I tell Gary, the replay op, I said, "Hey Gary," and because I don't even know if Mo caught the cameraman talking. There's a lot of voices going on. And I said, "Hey, Gary, can you kind of go back and look at that?" And so Gary goes and looks at the putt, and he's like, "No, there's nothing here." I was like, no, his approach. Go back further. And so we're playing it. We're not playing it. We're doing what we can. And suddenly Gary over replay says, "Yeah, there's something here. Something definitely doesn't look right." And I don't believe Gary he might have watched some of the video, but he didn't listen to any of it, because it's very difficult. Gary's also cutting replays for other cards and whatnot. And so Mo and I, and just mostly Mo, it kind of comes down to Mo's decision, but I would say I was just like, "Yeah, let's play it. Whatever it is." I mean, clearly, if he's taking a penalty stroke for it, we should show it.
It's pertinent.
It was pertinent.
It's very pertinent.
It was pertinent at that information.
Event.
So we played it. We actually showed it to the commentators first. We quickly played it in replay. So in previous, they could see it. We're like, "Hey, something here happened." And we only showed like the first 10 seconds of it or something. And then we played it. And honestly, that was the first time I heard it was live on the air. That was the first time I think any of us in the control room heard it. And so we didn't really, I think, truly grasp the severity, we'll say, of the situation watching it in preview, because we didn't know exactly what was going on. And I can only kind of keep one eye kind of on it. I just saw Nico following the official around. I didn't know what it was about. Or if the official was talking back to him, or what was going on, what the scenario was. Because without hearing it, you're only getting one perspective. So when we played it live, that was the first time we saw it. And honestly, we thought after we played it, we're like, should we have played that? Is that appropriate to show? Because we didn't really focus on Nico at all during the round. His play didn't truly qualify it. We showed a couple of his shots, of course, whenever somebody has a good shot, but we were there because Chandler Kramer was having a great round. And we happened to catch this. And I think going back and looking back at it, I think it was the right decision to show it. We have a different culture in disc golf than other sports, because you'll see baseball players and coaches get right up in the umpire's face, screaming at them, kicking dirt on the on the home plate, whatnot. In tennis, you see tennis players argue with referees about in and out calls. Hockey players, they show fights flat out.
Yeah.
They'll show fights, which is, again, we have a different culture in disc golf. It's a different sport. It's a different culture. But again, our job is to tell the story of the event. And like it or not, maybe because of us, this became a story. Because had we not showed it, all that would have happened is Nico would have been disqualified.
Yeah, and then the complaint is, well, where is it? Wasn't there a camera on that card? Why weren't people?
Why is the DGN trying to hide it?
What are you trying to hide? Why are you censoring us?
Yeah,
this is America. Well, we're not playing in America, but there's Americans there. Freedom of speech, man. I can say and do whatever the F I want.
The funny thing is, we were...
You can't win.
I think we just finished the round. And over our comms, someone from the PDGA jumped on our headset and it was like, "Hey, do you guys have footage of this Nico thing?" And I just said, "Yeah, check the internet, bro." Jokingly, because the PDGA didn't even realize, or the PDGA on site didn't realize that it was part of the broadcast when they jumped on the comms to ask us about footage from the camera. Because again, you can use footage to make these type of calls for disciplinary actions, not the 1 minute or the 30 seconds, but for that. So on site, they had no clue. I think they went and reviewed the camera footage after the fact. There was some stuff up at Tournament Central that nobody really knows unless you were there happened. There was no cameras involved in that. So it was interesting from our perspective because after the fact, there is still a question about, is that something we should be showing or not? I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. If it's Nico...
Should the person be doing it?
No, clearly not. But if it wasn't Nico, if it was someone on the 5th card that we happen to get footage of, I'm going to say pick a Swede, some really nice guy. If Grippler got in someone's face and was, upset at them, and he's not part of our story at all, if he's on the 5th card, is that something we show? Or do we only show it because it's Nico? I don't know. I can't separate myself from that because Nico was on the 4th card, I think, at the time. Third, fourth. Yeah, it was 3rd. I think it was 4th, actually.
Oh, it might have been, yeah.
I think it was 4th card. And Nico would have been on the chase card.
Yeah.
He was shooting well. He would have been on the chase card. So, and then the next day, obviously, the PDGA, you talked to Jeff Chaqua live, and we kind of discussed it real quickly on the broadcast. So I don't know. It's so hard for me to separate in the moment, seeing it being Nico versus anybody else at the time, whether or not we played it because it's Nico, if it's not Nico, if anybody else.
Yeah,
I can't put myself in that position.
And I would think if any player did that and then had the reaction they did and then ultimately got disqualified, the fact that there was the quote-unquote video evidence that showed exactly how and what went down, I think is that much more appropriate because let's say you have the nicest guy in the world who got disqualified, who had done literally the exact same reaction, but is known as the nicest guy in the world. The next thing you know, such a witch hunt on that person. They're the nicest person in the world. There's no way they did that. I don't believe that. Like, you just have so many other than people second guessing how it went down. And the one thing that I also posted earlier today is that the interaction between these two gentlemen at that time didn't end on the fairway at that spot on the fairway of 18. And
no, there's
somebody just asked if there was, other footage that will be seen. There is more footage that will likely never be seen. I happen to know from the back end that it exists and that there was, but my real point was there was still more interaction, and it's safe to assure you that it was very one-sided, that interaction that unfolded.
Well, at hole 18, after everyone putted out, Nico then again went and kind of started to walk towards the official, and it appeared to me that that Nico's caddy stepped in between them and more or less, I don't know if calmed the situation down, but politely moved Nico along. Like that's what I saw, and that was after they put out. I don't know if anything happened even after that because I haven't seen that, and I don't think there is camera footage after that because our cameraman then turns around and becomes a different cameraman. He either goes and does interviews or anything like that. But even after everything was put out, I saw a little bit more from Nico, and I haven't listened to that footage. That was all just visual. I saw the official, the caddy, and Nico almost like a sandwich. And at that point, then Nico was ushered away by his caddy. Great caddy, by the way. That's the kind of caddy I want.
I'm trying to think of who was on his bag.
I don't know
if it's someone I knew or not.
I know.
But either way.
But still, so
just the fact that if some people thought, oh, that incident wasn't so bad, that wasn't even all of it, is I guess maybe the point. So.
And then apparently Nico was not cooperative with the investigation at first when asked about it, which obviously led to the immediate disqualification. That is ultimately, I believe, when he refused to cooperate, they just said at that point, you're just like, you're done. Cool. That's why you were disqualified. So I mean, if he wanted to, I believe he is eligible to still play the D-Glow. I don't think he will, but I think he's eligible.
Yeah, I
because
mean, if no official suspension or otherwise has been noted, then yeah, he's absolutely welcome to play, and I would assume he'll be there. Well, I would have assumed that until he made a post earlier today saying that he was going to take a break. So I will close it by again saying I have no problem with all of us moving on, and if you choose to forgive him or not, that's on you. I would absolutely love to believe his apology is in the most sincerest of forms, and I hope, in fact, everything that he said within there just turns out to be the reality and fact. That's all that I can say about it. I mean, I'm good with that. It just is going to always come down to your actions speak louder than words, and if he holds true to what he said within his apology and his other statements about having everything under control, then you hit the reset button and you move on.
You welcome him back.
You have a nice clean slate and you move on to the next day. I'm good with that. I'll take that all day long. That's all I think we can ask of each other as humans is to get that reset. Is if that's what you're looking for, is to acknowledge and grow and improve, and then you come back and you prove that with your actions. That's all you can ask for, and I certainly hope that of him. So,
all right. Let's move on. Let's quickly talk about the Warwick Disc Golf Championships over in Warwick, New York. This is an A tier. This is I'm specifically talking about this because this is Mo's favorite course, favorite event, and every time anyone mentioned the European Open, all Mo said was, "Yep, this is the second most important event of the weekend. The most important is Warwick." Ultimately, Harry Chase wins this one, shooting 27 under over Scott Conway, Kyle Moriarty, and Steve Brinster. So congratulations to Harry and MPO. In Open Women, Margaret Sassaman takes this one down over G. Ann Pian? Not sure what that one is. So congratulations. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there...
Well, you do that. I'll also make a quick plug. Of course, just 3 days remain to get your votes in for the PDGA.
I voted. You vote. Go vote.
I'm going to get political, hardcore for a moment. I think this qualifies as political, but not political. Here, and maybe this has been done, and this is, I feel like, a sincere and very genuine and legitimate question. And I'm sure I could have Googled it, so that makes it maybe a little bit stupid. What should or would be considered a successful voter turnout for maybe an organization of our size and type?
I don't know if that's Googleable, so to speak, but I would be happy, I think, with 30%, because I think it's...
Which is a very arbitrary number or not?
Well, it is arbitrary, but it's...
you know it's more than before.
But it's more than before. It's
okay.
an increase in improvement than the 20 to 24% I think we've seen in the past.
Oh, God, no. Like 11 or 12%, and then it's maybe gotten up to 24.
I thought we were at like close to 20 last time.
Yeah, it's been as low as like 11 and 12%.
If we could get to 25 to 30%, somewhere in there, I think that would be successful movement.
Okay,
I would love to see us at 70%. But I don't know. And
here's maybe a little bit more of the core of my overall questioning, which is, at what point, how many people should we all but, I hate to say eliminate, but, and I hate to say disregard, that's not the word I'm looking for. I think of, 3 ballots arrived at my house virtually through email. Me, my 13-year-old daughter, and my 11-year-old daughter. Of course, I'd love to inform them and keep them as educated as possible and up to speed. However, they're 11 and 13. They very seldomly play. And as much as I feel like are somewhat up on some at least political issues overall and main agenda items, I still don't expect them to have a voice. I don't expect them to have much of a voice on these matters. They literally will probably not even play a sanctioned event this year. They may not even play an unsanctioned event. So my point is, think about the hundreds, or shall we say thousands, of juniors.
It's probably,
I don't want to say you disregard
1 to 2% of our PDGA.
Yeah, that's right. We need a PDGA rep maybe these are some great numbers for our membership manager that I should have asked a few days ago, but I thought of the question today. But just think about it. So there's a few thousand juniors that might be under the age of, I pick an age, 12, 13, 14, that quite frankly don't even want to read the ballots or care. And you'd like to say, well, maybe their parent would educate them. I'm in that boat. My kids still don't care. This is my life.
And let's be honest. Those kids would vote anyway. The parents probably skewed it. Like, so if you walked up and said, "Who's on the board?" Phil Mills. Phil is a pretty good guy, and he says this, this, and this, and the kid would probably be like, "Okay, I'll vote for Phil." Like, I just don't think that the kids have the
correct. They're going to vote what their parents tell them to vote. Probably, which could be good, bad, or indifferent, right? So you have those kids. You have a few Eagle members, and those are probably in the dozens, but. I guess I was trying to like find that little Venn diagram of eligible voters, which is every current PDGA member, but then also the voters that are up to speed and or care. And then I think of current PDGA members that, well, I guess those are the people that don't care. Yeah, like there's just so many that either aren't up to speed or don't care, or there's also members. You bought your 1-year-old a membership just for the sake of that's the year they were born, or they were born this year. They now have a membership and a vote. And I'm not suggesting that these people shouldn't be given them. I'm just thinking they're hardly part of the legitimate voter pool.
Sure.
And legit's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like expected voter pool.
Yeah. No,
I got 3 ballots. Guess what? My 2 daughters' ballots will probably be exactly what I think. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Is that voter fraud? Am I admitting to something? Am I going to go to jail right away? Anyway.
I don't know this man. PDGA, I did not ever.
So that's I guess. And maybe some of you guys have some really interesting insight or thoughts about this. I don't know from I'll say a general political discussion as to like what a good number is, and then how many we should just really not even expect as part of a voter turnout. The significant other that had to get the membership because they're going to be the assistant TD at a tournament, or they're just becoming an official and maybe otherwise don't even care. I mean, those are, and there's no way to be like, hey, do you care or not? Should we send you a ballot or not? Because you're sending them to everyone. Yes. But that was part of my point. Clearly, I guess you're never getting to 100% voting. The question is if we got to 50, would that be like a massive win?
Yeah.
And would that be legendary? Or should we expect to someday get to 72%? No. I don't know.
Well, Phil says in 2021, it was 20.3. That was what we hit.
Okay.
20.3, which is where I thought I saw 20%. So
okay.
Again, I'd be happy with 25. I'd be happy with anything over 20, because I think right now we're at, what I last heard, 16 or 17%. So
yeah.
And we have a few days left. So let's try to get it to 25 people. Get out and vote. Check your email. You'll probably get a reminder email if you didn't.
They just sent another one like in the last day or two, and that's why I wanted to say it again. Yeah, we're seeing 6,716 junior-aged members in 2021.
And we have over 100,000 active PDGA members now. That's right. So about 6% are probably juniors.
And I'm not saying juniors shouldn't be voting or don't, I'm not
they're just unlikely voters.
Yeah.
They're unlikely voters.
But,
all right, we're going to talk about the Clash at the Canyons real quick. Gannon Burr takes this one down, shooting 25 under par over Dan Schlitter and Chase Van Berklio. Fourth place was Ian Burchett, Eli Swenson, and Chris Clemens. So congratulations. Kale LaVisca takes 8th in this one. This is Clash at the Canyons in Lockport, Illinois. Moving down to FPO women, Hannah Wynn, I believe, is that Hannah Wynn? Is how you pronounce her name? Which is funny because that's not usually how the name Wynn is pronounced.
Yep.
And that I've seen in the past. Second place, Juliana Corver and Sarah Gilpin. Fourth place, Ellen Widd to the boom. And tied for 5th, Casey Glade and Holly Finley. So congratulations to our Clash of the Canyons. And the only other event that I want to talk about is the Brent Hambrick Memorial, which is an A tier over in Ohio. Tournament director, one Christy Moore. I don't know if she's on the board or not, but congratulations, Christy. Winning this one, Nate Hecker. So Nate,
What
1,000.
the Nate Hecker?
What the Nate Hecker?
Trent Nichols from our DGN crew was especially stoked about that, as
he's
he
a
is
friend of his.
a friend of his, and
Nate's
said
only
that-
1,008 rated.
Yeah.
He beat out the superstar Isaac
Mm-hmm.
Robinson, who's 1,031. Corey Ellis, 1,029. Fourth place, Tyler Horn. Fifth place, Andrew Presnell. Sixth place, Joel Freeman. Seventh place, Bradley Williams. Eighth place, Tony Rice. And ninth place, Scott Stokely. I mean, you're talking about almost all those other guys are on tour regularly. So the fact that Nate Hecker wins in a playoff over Isaac, what a great story. Congratulations to Nate. In open women, Holland Hanley takes this one down handedly.
handedly.
Holland handedly. I was trying to work through it. I was going to get there.
You'll get there.
I was trying to come up with something more clever than that because I thought that was like just mediocre, but okay, I'll give it to you, Tara. 15 strokes over Ashley Bauman, and third place, Michelle Frazier. Fourth place, Hannah Manis and Christine Jennings.
Congratulations. And Tim Courts with the inside scoop. Our Smashies budget sent him all the way there, just down the road. And Tim Courts tells us that Nate Hecker won in a playoff, parked hole 1 to 1 foot away.
That's the inside scoop you're only getting here.
It is.
Through Tim.
Yes. So, Tim, we do appreciate the inside scoop there. Thank you so much. Real quick, Hall of Famer, legendary woman and human, Mom Wallace, celebrating a birthday today. So I wanted to get the shout out
Ma
in
Wallace.
there to Ma Wallace. A very crucial, instrumental part of all of our
Midwest golf.
Midwest and United States women, specifically her, and along with Old Man Wallace, who has passed away, but Eagle members, Hall of Famers, just all around incredible humans. But Mom Wallace celebrating a birthday today. So happy birthday to Mom Wallace.
That's all I got, Tara.
Okay. I had something else clever, and of course it slipped my mind now, but
We can save it for the after show. Maybe you'll remember.
maybe not.
The other highlight
My clever runs thin.
of the broadcast this weekend, and he owns up to it, was one Brian Earhart on hole 16, talking about Eagle and his spike onto the island, more or less saying, literally, as Eagle's throwing it, saying, well, it's not like he's going to tombstone this. 5 seconds later,
Tombstone.
tombstoned right into
Slicing
the green.
it right in.
Half deep in the thing. It was, I don't know if you could have picked a more
Like,
humorous,
yeah,
unfortunate
obvious
timing,
call, yeah.
because nothing else had tombstoned in that island all weekend
Sure.
that we had seen, at least. And other ones were bouncing and rolling, and Eagle had the one that rolled and hit the hay bales the round before. But just the way Brian was like, yeah, Nate, it's not like he's going to tombstone this, and then whoomp, right in there. A lot of people got a kick out of it, including myself. A lot of people in the control room chuckled at Brian, and he saw it on, I think, Reddit, and got a good laugh out of it.
Sometimes these players.
They fool you. Other big news, kind of, in just social media community, Reddit got rid of their spoiler rules. Which
Okay.
they are the biggest disc golf community we have.
Okay.
200,000 people are part of that group. So a major change like that, I think, says something about live disc golf, in that while it's still not the overwhelming majority of people who watch, that it is now taking front and center stage in the social media perspective. And there was a lot of fight back, but I think the moderators were just kind of sick of having to moderate events, and they took cues from other sports and just said, okay, we're done with this. It used to be no spoilers in titles up to 24 hours after the event. After 24 hours, fair game, because that's all post-production has been released and all this. So I get it. You live by the standards that your community sets. I totally with them, but they have now gone and changed it and basically said, we're not going to implement spoiler rules anymore. If you want to spoil it, you are welcome to. You can still use the spoiler tags that hide the stuff, but we're not basically going to monitor or moderate it anymore. So best of luck. And there was a good portion of people on there, and I say good portion, they're obviously a vocal minority, that said, cool, we're out of here then. And that's fine. Like, if that's how you want to, if you want to consume post-production and that's how
you're on social media during live sports.
That's
maybe this isn't the place for you in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of how, so I think that is kind of a big shift in the online community when that's your biggest community, and we're starting to see a change in that perspective. So
I definitely do consider that a significant policy change, and I just generically would revert to the overarching concept of, like, if you're on any social media anywhere and you don't want to know the results of the largest sporting event in your hobby or your passion or your career or however disc golf is relative to you, then I think you're just asking for trouble no matter where you go on any social media platform. And if you think the world's gonna wait for you, I think that's just a tall task. So I get it, like you said. If there's a community that wants to still uphold the no spoilers concept, then I think that's great. But to expect everyone to do that, I think, is a little bit crazy. All right, well, we're going to close things out for the regular show for now. It looks like a lot of you guys getting fired up on some other thoughts, questions, and concerns out there. So we'll try and touch on those as we come back for the after show. And if you're not familiar with the after show, I'll quickly tell you. It's where we continue to have conversations that may or may not be disc golf related. They're also a great opportunity for us to interact with you directly as we read things off our various chat boards. So if you've got a topic or another issue of conversation, again, disc golf related or otherwise, you're welcome to put it in there, and hopefully we can discuss it and go from there. Sometimes it gets off the rails.
It does.
Sometimes it's still 100% disc golf, but sometimes it's not. And also, maybe the best part of your after show,
we give stuff away.
Free stuff.
Patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Who doesn't love free stuff? Unless a penalty is free. Okay, we're going to call it. Johnny V, myself, got to thank Paige Pierce. You're now 3-time European Open champion, 17-time major winner, 5 of those being world championships. Also, yet again, congrats to Eagle McMahon, who's now a 2-time major winner, both coming on European soil. So
how come that guy can't win in the U.S.? These are basically illegitimate majors now. If you can't win in the
did
US.
You see that? He didn't even throw a forehand. It doesn't count. That and other stupid threads you've seen, all coming up in the after show. We'll see you. This has been Smashbox TV's podcast 413. We're signing off, but stick around because we'll still be here. We'll see you in the after show when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 413's After Show. Nailed it.
A lot of people really liked waking up in the morning very early and getting to watch golf here in the U.S. And
not as much as they would have liked it in the afternoon or night, though.
Correct.
Okay.
I think, and to be fair,
Yeah.
you can almost always do that. It's just usually FPO.
Yep.
But a lot of people liked it that they came in and got to see MPO early because it gave them afternoons off, more or less. They weren't tied to wherever. And to be fair, I loved being done at noon my time, so I could get, all the important stuff done, like napping and more napping in the afternoon. So,
well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see or hear if, above our pay grade, if the engagement and the overall viewership, and I mean, quite understandably, you would expect, even though it's a major, you would expect with the times that it was offered in the U.S., where your much larger viewer base is, you would expect that the overall viewership was lesser. I mean, that's just I think an obvious expectation. As you said, the women's golf started at 1 a.m. Eastern or 1 a.m. Central.
Maybe it was 1 a.m.
If it was 9 a.m. there, it was Central's 8 hours behind us. So it was 1 a.m. Central was roughly when the women's broadcast was starting here in the U.S. at 1 a.m. Central. Yeah, understandably.
And the U.S. has the most viewers and fans.
Exactly.
So I can understand. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Someone, man, asked me what time did I start my day. I was lucky in that we had somebody on the West Coast, Ian, who was out of Portland, so it was only 11 o'clock for him, do the FPO coverage. So he was up from 11 until, we'll just say 4 his time probably. And I got up at 5 Central Time. It was 5 the first day, and then it was 6 the next days because after after the first day we have things a little more dialed in. So I would get up at 6 a.m. my time because we started at 7. So it actually wasn't too bad. It was only a few 15 or a half hour earlier than I usually get up. And so I did the MPO switching, of which I was very. And I'm not here to pat myself on the back. I thought day 1 of all the days that we did was maybe our most clean broadcast we've ever done. We had more or less one, as I call it, one loose camera where you saw the camera go kind of crazy on day 1. And that was completely my fault because we were in a picture-in-picture and I accidentally clicked a button that suddenly showed the wrong camera while it was in the mini picture-in-picture. I really thought the day 1 MPO was spectacular. And the other days were good, but I didn't feel technically wise they were as clean as day 1. But ultimately, everybody had, I think all the broadcasts were really good. Saw a lot of people on social media say, oh man, I never watch live because I'm a post-production person, but I turned it on because I have DGN and I got to watch it, and it's way better than people say it is, which is always my favorite thing to hear. It's way better than other people say, which means there's a few vocal people that really dislike it and are very vocal about it.
Well, and there's clearly it's not perfect, but there is also a number of people that haven't kept up with the progression of it. I mean, it's clearly a much different operation
than it was 3 to 4 years ago.
And 3 to 4 years before that, when there was 3 of us running an entire operation, and now, there's 12 to 15 to 18 people that are putting into a broadcast on any given morning or afternoon, or even more than that. So, yeah, good. And I think somebody had asked it earlier, so it's worth quickly addressing. There was, in fact, well, let's back up. If you were a DGN subscriber, you got to see all 4 rounds, FPO and MPO, live. You paid nothing extra.
I don't know how this is still...
I know. That's what's kind of mind-blowing to me, because some people, even tonight, somebody had asked, hey, was there post-production? Yes, there is post-production. It still exists. That was part of the $10 pay-per-view model where you could then watch post-production literally the next day, or in some people's case, the same day, kind of, sort of, meaning we were ahead of you by 8 or 9 hours. And by the time it got put together, edited, and released, it might have been available was by the end of your day. What the point is, post-production exists. All 4 rounds, MPO and FPO, absolutely exist. And that was part of the $10 coverage that you could purchase separately. Yes, you had to purchase it separately. Will it someday make it to the DGN regular platform or YouTube? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
I thought I heard 30 days, then YouTube.
I thought I heard that too. I don't want to promise that because I don't know that for a fact. But I do know for a fact it's out there and it's available right now. So if you're somehow still confused about that, there's your clarification. And I get it. Some people have missed the 92 other postings of that, and that's okay. I'm just telling you right now, yes, it is available. Somebody asked tonight.
And the other thing, I think one of the other reasons that people really, really loved this production, and I'll say I didn't love it nearly as much, no commercial breaks.
Oh, geez, really?
We had commercials. Basically, we ran 3 commercials after, or right before the lead card, after the chase card. We were commercial free the entire day.
Oh, my.
Until the end of the show, where I think we ran 3 or 4 more, because it was all covered by Discmania. It was part of the pay-per-view. It was part of, being on the DGN. And there was some Ford commercials for Ford.fi, which I believe is like a Ford importer there, and one of the major sponsors. And there's some Discmania commercials, and I think maybe one other commercial. But there were so few, I don't even recall. So the fact that people basically got it commercial-free, which is great for viewers. I don't love it in the control room because I literally never get I never get a break. Normally, you take a quick commercial break. I can kind of turn my brain off for a second and make a reassessment. But we had a lot less of that. So we'd go to a drone and I'd have to be looking for the next shot, or we'd be in this. And so, but I thought it worked out. It was, Mo loves it because Mo hates commercials, and because he feels like that it just takes away from the broadcast. Because there's always golf you can show. There's always golf you can show, whether it's somebody sitting on a
good or bad golf.
Correct.
Yeah.
Whether it's somebody sitting on a tee pad contemplating their next shot, whether it's a Chandler Kramer putting for birdie on a hole. There's probably golf that you can show. It doesn't always fit in with what we want to show, but if you really have to show something, we can. But yeah, if you go back and look, no commercials. So a lot of people really enjoyed that, I felt. You didn't even know that. You were on the ground.
I wouldn't know that because I'm just walking around out in the fields, and
Fjords?
listening to the broadcast or to the announcers. And to be fair, when we do cut to commercials, I don't hear them anyway.
No, you don't.
So
you still hear the commentators talking.
Yeah. So. All right, let's see. Step in the Box says the coverage is amazing. We just need Terry in the booth with Nate. Yeah, I mean that's going to continue to be a
shift and
rotation and back and forth. Likely, I am, for what it's worth, I'm on the course this weekend again at D-Glow for 2 rounds on the toboggan out there, and I believe Nate. Ian and Philo, I think. I have not looked. All I know is I'm on the course, but I think it's Ian and Philo are in the booth. And then I don't know if Ian is maybe with Elaine. I guess it would be fair for me to now look that up. It's a couple clicks away for me to tell you guys. Except for not those clicks. Let me see if I can find that quickly, because it would be good for me to know as well. All right. The other thing that I would go ahead and throw out there, and this is a little dicey, but
that's kind.
If there's something, and I don't know the best way to do this, maybe I need to just set up a form somewhere. If there's something that you feel is, I'd have to be the judge of it, but if you feel like there's something that you want to know in terms of the press conferences, I wish there was a really good way. Maybe just sending me a Facebook message,
like a Google form you could create.
Yeah, like a Google form. That's what I was saying. Maybe I'll just create a form for this. that comes with a clarification or two.
There is a chat board as well.
Let me make
There's
a
a
quick
YouTube
clarification to that. Press conferences are, as we say, not to ask or to figure out necessarily what. Now, there's always exceptions, but a press conference isn't to find out, hey, what'd you do with your brother last week while you were home, and what's your favorite kind of ice cream? Now, I'm not saying I don't ask any of those questions ever, but that's not the primary focus. As I was told when I first took over being one of the head press conference question interviewers, is you think here and now, this event, this week, this time frame, far more than generically, let's get the warm and fuzzies about like you would in a podcast. That's how it was described to me. So I would then use a similar clarification for you guys. And I'll be the first to admit that after talking to very similar people, very often at events, it sometimes gets difficult, which is why I made the joke with Paige that I'll be seeing her in a few days and asking her similar questions. Some will be similar and some won't. But for me to continue to innovate and come up with pertinent questions that are time specific, time to like current present day specific, gets a little bit challenging. So, and maybe I just need a little more influence or creativity that could be somewhat sourced by you guys. So that's something I want to throw out there, is if you have suggestions, for now, just shoot them to me in Facebook or an email or any other way I'm on socials. I'll probably see them. But just remember, though, if I'm not asking the question that you've put out there, I have to have some editorial assessment to it as well. That was a long-winded way to say, do my job, please. Please
All right.
Do my job.
So this is always the big question, Terry. You flew overseas. What did you watch on the plane? That's like 8 hours. Did you sleep? Were you able to catch some movies? Did any new releases drop, Terry, that you got to see?
I love me some Matt Damon. And
so you bought cryptocurrency.
I don't know if I'm really, really close-minded or unimaginative, but at one point I remember flipping through the movies on the little display board on the, whatever, TV thing, monitor.
In-flight entertainment.
Like, thinking how so few of them even remotely interested me. Whether it was the straight up genre, of course I'm ignoring
sci-fi,
anime or sci-fi for the most part,
superhero stuff,
whatever.
Yeah.
Yep. So whether it was the genre or even within the genre, and maybe it's something to speak to the quality of the either the airline and or the offerings, or if I'm just a very, very narrow-minded person when it comes to that. So at some point, I don't know how I landed on it, other than being a Matt Damon fan. I found an old Matt Damon movie. Did I tell you? I told you what it was.
For your consideration or something?
No. Matt Damon and something not according to plan. Gosh, now I can't even remember the year. Was it 2013 movie? Well, it wouldn't be hard to Google some Matt Damon movies. Definitely not that one.
Not Elysium.
So
now Terry is on IMDb.
Where's the stupid?
You're just literally looking at the Elysium movie. You need to click on Matt Damon.
How did I get on Amazon?
I don't know.
IMDb Matt Damon.
Wow, it wasn't Good Will Hunting.
No. There's a bigger story to that in a moment.
But I think he did watch it. It wasn't Clerks or Chasing Amy.
No.
Sorry,
It was not like a big blockbuster that you are thinking of, because I would have remembered. It was probably not his most. Oh my gosh, this is obnoxious that I felt like it was 2016 or 2013, but that does not appear to be. Not More Time with the Promised Land. The People. Speakeasy. Are you kidding?
Click on actor where it says 93 credit. Click on actor where it says 93 credits. Below that. Wow, all this for a Matt Damon movie.
I know, all this just to not any of the Bourne films.
Promised Land?
No. The Adjustment Bureau. Holy cow. 2011. Now, that's why I say I can't imagine that overall was reviewed highly. I don't know, 7 out of 10 here. Anyway, I watched The Adjustment Bureau. Holy cow. I apologize, all of that for that little payoff. With Emily Blunt, it was all right. I'm a Matt Damon fan, and although I haven't watched a ton of the other ones, I watched that, and then when it was all said and done, I went back.
Says that movie sucked.
Yeah, that's why I say all right at best. It definitely was not my style, but at a certain point, I was so far into it. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna finish this. Then I went to one of the old standbys and put this in your back pocket for a trivia question some other day. But yeah, I watched Good Will Hunting. I would say my favorite movie of all time. I did. If you wanted to compartmentalize various genres, maybe then, in a comedy, like straight up comedy, you'd find something else. But Good Will Hunting definitely ranks as one of my most favorite movies of all time. So I gave the full 2 hours and something to that, and I watched them back to back. I was like, oh, Matt, let's watch this. So
just clean that taste out of your mouth of the Adjustment Bureau.
It was. It's been a while since I had rewatched it because I know it's a little bit longer movie. I don't sit down and watch a lot of movies in the first place.
That's why I asked, because you're in a plane.
I know, and so I took that in, and then I was in a mood, and I watched Her. Her with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yep, the one where he has basically some sort of relationship with his with his digital personal assistant,
with his digital operating system. And that was it was interesting. I don't know if good's the word I would use. It wasn't bad. I don't know if good's the word I would use either. So those were my movie, and then I ended up watching like some short 30-minute or 20-minute, kind of documentary type thing that had Reggie Miller interviewing Steph Curry, and it was talking obviously about three-pointers, and not just three-pointers, but the record, about shooting, a little bit about the background and history. I feel like that was the majority of what I consumed, though, there and back.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's.
I want to go see Nope, the Jordan Peele movie. I don't think I'll see it in the theater. It's just probably not.
I'm unfamiliar.
Well, Jordan Peele usually does horror movies.
Okay.
He did Us. He did. You've seen none of his movies. I guarantee it. But he's a phenomenal director. And he's got a new one called Nope that I believe the premise is there's a family out in the middle of nowhere and aliens are showing up. And they're, rather than, based on the trailer that I saw, rather than like running and clearing house, they decide they're going to stay there and get video footage and sell this video footage for a fortune. And it just goes
World star.
Yeah, kind of. And it goes downhill from there.
Imagine that.
But yeah, exactly. But he's a phenomenal, a crazy good director. He's probably maybe the best that's out there right now. Him, like Ryan Coogler, and I don't know, maybe Edgar Wright. But anyway, it looks really good. So I doubt I'll see it in the theater, but I will definitely catch it when it comes to pay-per-view at my house.
Okay. I'm catching up on a few recent comments that said, if you're a DGN subscriber, you shouldn't have to pay extra for post-production, and certainly not USDGC.
That's really dependent on the event. Ultimately, the DGN can only control, or DGPT can only control, DGN can only control the DGPT events because they're co-owned by each other. They're one entity split off. However you want to
say that louder for the people in the back that very much either don't know
the DGPT,
or understand that.
The DGPT started up the DGN. So they are under the same umbrella. And I don't know exactly how it works at the corporate level as far as who owns what and this and that. But it's basically, you can consider it more or less one entity, DGPT and DGN. Now, I'm probably going to get a nasty email from somebody saying that's not the case, blah, 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 but it more or less is. So the DGN and DGPT can really only control their own events.
So if a non-DGPT event,
such
i.e.
as any major, which are PDGA, World Championships, Champions Cup,
and USDGC.
USWDGC. Those are PDGA. There's the Innova events, Innova majors, which is
like the Tim Selinsky,
and the college event,
and the USDGC.
And then there's the European events, which are more or less owned by Discmania. Discmania owns the European Open. I'm fairly certain that's how it works. Similar to USDGC, excuse me. So the DGN and DGPT, which I'll use as either or, work with the PDGA, work with Innova, work with Discmania to broadcast those events. They don't control them, though. They don't have any, I don't want to say any say. They don't have complete say over that. So they do need to accommodate what those events want. And if those events want a specific style of coverage, all pay-per-view, post-production pay-per-view, rounds 2 and 4 pay-per-view, the DGN is ultimately going to work with them with what they want. Now, of course, the DGN can negotiate and try to change things, whether it's financially or assisting with media. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that can be worked out, but they don't control those events. They are hired to broadcast them. So ultimately, I believe that if it were up to DGN and DGPT, they would probably just have everything behind their subscription, because they already offer individual events you can subscribe to. If you don't want to be a DGN subscriber and you just want one event or 1 month, there's options. But these other events want to try different perspectives. So ultimately, there's nothing, again, I'm putting that in quotes, that the DGPT/DGN can do about that. Short of probably throwing a huge amount of cash at somebody, which isn't necessarily realistic. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not in control of the books, thank God. But, that's just how it works. And would it be great? Sure. But maybe not for everybody. I don't know. I don't know how much for the European Open, I don't know how many people bought the bonus content. I don't know if it was 100. I don't know if it was 1,000 or 5,000. But figure at $10 for the bonus content, if let's just assume you're already a subscriber, and it was 5,000, that's $50,000 in somebody's pocket. And again, I don't know those numbers. I didn't look at them. I don't want to look at them. I could, but I'm not gonna. Maybe I'll do it after the show. Probably not. I'm lazy. It's just how it works.
Yeah, it's a funny overall perspective in that no matter what is given, anything that's not then added on for free, people really dig deep to then complain. And I guess or voice their opinion, complain, however you want to look at it. I was just trying to think of an analogy, and that would be, could it be similar to saying, I have an account with Verizon, and that gets me X amount of minutes and X amount of things and text and blah, blah, blah. It gets me all these features. If I want more, or if there's more that's being available, or more that's unique or special, or that's offered in addition, you then sometimes pay more for it.
Sure. Other subscription companies do that. Disney Plus will sometimes do that for certain. They did it more so during the pandemic when theaters were closed, that if a new movie was scheduled to come out, it didn't come with your package. You had to pay extra for that. I equate it to kind of like Amazon. I can go and get Amazon Prime. That doesn't give me every movie Amazon has in their system. I still have to pay for some movies. I have to rent movies still. You know, I think we had to rent the movie Willow the other day because my kids wanted to watch, or that's not true. I wanted my kids to watch it. We ended up not watching it. But not every movie is included in Amazon Prime. You still have some movies you have to rent, but they're there for you to rent if you want them.
I think that's a great analogy.
And
then.
So, but I do get, 1,000 movies with Amazon Prime, but I don't get every movie.
And just because something is available doesn't mean you're guaranteed or necessarily should be expected.
I'd love it if that were the case.
I guess what the frustrating thing is, here's a possible example, and we kind of are in this world, but if the DGN, put out a rough schedule of we're going to cover 30 events this year, we are guaranteeing, we are committing to covering 30 events. I'm just going to make up a number. And all of a sudden, this incredible event came along, but cost a ton of money to logistically put it together. The event costs money, and there's a huge purse, and there is all these other logistics and legitimate hard costs that go along with it. And it wasn't on the schedule, but now whether it's an exhibition or a celebrity thing or a whatever it might be, but it's going to be a really big deal, or we get this really unique opportunity to go play golf at some unbelievable place, whatever. And it's all generated for the sake of show. There shouldn't be an expectation of, well, it exists, therefore I'm entitled to it.
And part of it is the DGN has put their schedule out. It's been out since like February. You can look at all the events that are included. If something comes up, if for instance, Disc Flacked or Guts or another sport comes to us and says, hey, you guys do flying disc stuff, right? Or an ultimate thing, and say, can we broadcast this on your channel and put it as pay-per-view? We've already made the schedule. It doesn't necessarily mean everyone gets it for free. Like, things change, things are adjusted. There are set things, and I understand people's frustrations. Sometimes it can be confusing, and I'll be the first to admit that the interface for DGN, and when you're going through like Roku or sometimes the computer, can be confusing to find certain things. Like I heard post-production was a little bit more difficult to find because you had to go through like certain area and then into something else. You couldn't just search for it or whatever. Because
that's like, very legitimate feedback.
100%. I get some of that stuff, but the DGN has promised X amount of events. Anything above and beyond that is fair game for them to do whatever they want, or whomever wants them to do it. It's just the way it's going to be. So anyway, it's not going to be the last time we talk about this. I guarantee it. I don't know what the plan is for US DGC as far as post-production versus live. I know there's
been some announcement that was done months ago.
Was there? I know we're doing live, and that's included in your DGN subscription. That's all I care about personally, because I don't watch post-production, because I watch it live, because I'm usually watching all the cameras. So, and then I'll go back and every once in a while spot check live, just kind of say, hey, how did we do that? That was pretty good. Damn, we're good, and pat myself on the back.
You would.
I do so much.
Wade says, nothing but love. Glad Terry saw Europe. Thank you. It was pretty awesome to see it, all of that in person.
Matt asks, Terry, are you still buying minutes?
Yes.
Yeah. Still, how many text messages do you have on your plan now?
In all honesty, this kind of ties, and maybe that's where I was at my head with subscription or purchasing things. I went to Europe and I got charged $10 a day to use my Verizon phone. Why wasn't that just included? I already pay Verizon every month. Why are they charging me $10? I mean, it's not like they gave me my own new personal cell phone tower. Why do I have to pay $10 more? And that's literally what it was. It was $10 more per day to use.
$10 a day?
$10 a day.
Oh, wow.
You were guaranteed you were given then X amount of data with that. And I don't even know what all the charges were or weren't. But why do I have to pay all those? That doesn't seem fair. I have a contract. I don't actually have a contract. I have a subscription service, though, so to speak, with Verizon. That's so not fair. Just because I go to another country, like I understand, as Johnny said, I understand some of the frustrations in terms of maybe an interface perspective, but I've been saying this for a lot of years. Just because something's available doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to have it, and that goes for not just disc golf content. It goes for a lot of things. Just because it exists doesn't mean it's necessarily meant for you.
Scout, Terry, maybe you would know this. Scout Recycler says, do you know how many DGN/Pro Tour employees went over to Europe?
That's a quick estimate would say DGN I'll say DGN employees. I'd have to sit and count everybody, but I'm thinking it's somewhere in the like 5 to 10 neighborhood. And then contractors, which I technically fit under, GK Pro had 3 or 4 people there. 4 people there. I was there, and maybe 1 or 2 others. So our crew overall, yeah, I'd say it was about 12 to 15 people. I'd have to literally write down everyone's name, which I could do, but that's a good estimate. 12 to 15 total people were there. And that's, of course, just, U.S. people. And then back that up, that was obviously included spending a week in Norway, broadcasting for 4 days out of Norway, blah, blah, blah. Hey, what do we get to charge extra? Because Norway was a 4-day Silver Series event, and we
only promised single-day Silver Series, I think, at the beginning
final
of the
day
season.
of single series of Silver Series events. So if you want to send me extra, because I had to commentate on 4 days of. Anyway, it was somewhere in that neighborhood of 10 to 12 to 15 total people that were involved, just from our perspective.
And we did use 1 or 2 contractors from overseas.
Sure.
I spoke with the gentleman. I think he was usually in camera 4 or 5 that we had, and different experience, that's for sure.
Certainly.
Has all the DGN equipment made it safely back to the U.S.? I haven't heard. I haven't spoken with anybody, so I don't know, to be honest.
I don't think all of it made it officially to our. I know all of it didn't make it. No, one final box with cameras. I don't think still made it.
Oh,
That's
really?
Another story, yeah.
Because I know
after show.
Oh, I know all of the live views eventually got there. So which is
not all of the cameras.
Oh, the cameras still not all the cameras.
Yeah.
Oof.
So there's that.
That's awkward.
Traveling internationally with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars equipment was a new learning experience, I think, for a lot of us as well. So that's something else to keep in mind. Matt says, I've literally yelled at AT&T about that exact thing. Got the charges dropped. Okay. Well, you may have, and that's cool. They may have been doing you a solid, but at one point you probably signed on to something that had fine print that told you what you were going to get charged for. And again, good on you if somehow you got it dropped, but you probably signed up for something and were legally and technically on the hook for it, that they may have just let you slide on.
Spock Hauser says, the day that all pro disc golf is behind a paywall is the day I stop caring or watching. It kind of goes along with one of the big threads that was on Reddit asking if is Jomez getting muscled out, which is funny because it feels like because they weren't covering, because they didn't go to Europe. So they didn't cover Sula. They didn't cover anything here in the U.S. They didn't cover European Open. They had a vacation. They had a break. Good for them. But we haven't seen a Jomez video that I think people kind of got a little worried.
Oh.
And we're like, hey, what's going on?
Check their schedule.
Yeah, check their schedule. And they've got a whole nother year and a half on their contract. So
no worries.
No worries there, at least for the next year and a half, I'll say. But as far as going, I don't believe we're going to see a day when it all goes behind a paywall. Not in the next couple of years. Not in the next 5 years, I don't think. I think there will always be a free option of some sort, whether that is highlight video, whether that's post-production. It might not be next day in the future. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's on a different channel. I kind of chuckle when I hear all these people screaming like, man, if they knock out Jomez, I'm not watching. And all I'm thinking is like, but what if GK Pro gets it? Or Gatekeeper? What if suddenly Gatekeeper gets MPO lead card? Are you still going to stop watching? Or is it just like you're not going to watch if it's behind a paywall? I don't know the answers, and I'm not about to get into an online of that. It's, again, post-production isn't really my bag, but I do sometimes make corrections on things, because somebody was asking about, or no, somebody had said that the post-production was all taken from the live, and I said that's not true. The post-production was taken from the raw cameras. It was the nightly highlights that were pulled from the live footage. And I made that clarification because someone was complaining about the quality of the highlight videos. They were blurry, and that could be somehow that they were ripped poorly. That they were just, depending on what was happening, maybe it was a bad render. I didn't watch any of them, so I don't know. I didn't even comment on it. But all I know is that I thought that the live product looked pretty good this weekend.
I like Jomez's live.
That's good. They're the best.
If I don't get that, I don't watch. So Sam wants to get hired needs to buy a plane and hire me as their pilot. I wouldn't count on that. Terry, give us a cam. Give us a Terry cam. Ray had posted that a couple times. Is there a chance of that? I don't know.
Strap a GoPro to your head.
Yeah, I don't know if they would find as much value in that. However, I will say that there hopefully will be some kind of solution that continues to strengthen the on-course commentators, make it a little bit more robust.
I did hear about something.
To make it a little bit more robust so that it's easier and that it works
more consistently.
This weekend it worked more than it didn't, for sure. There's always a challenge or two. I'll just one quick little insight. You didn't hear a lot from me during the rainy round, not because I wasn't out there. But because the system that we have, which requires me to hit a button on a cell phone to unmute myself, was damn near impossible while it was pouring on us. And so you say, well, duh, just put it in a baggie. I tried that.
Your hands still get all moisture, and it's just... There
was not an easy way to do it while it was pouring rain.
Go stand in your shower and try to use your touch
exactly.
touch screen.
Exactly. I'll make sure the camera's off on that one too. But it is not an easy
getting undressed.
It is not an easy task, and that was definitely a downfall to the system that we were using. Now, would it be advantageous for me to have a camera? You might be onto something, only because there's times where clearly I'm down the fairway and I may get asked, hey, how is that lie? Just landed, Macbeth somehow got off the fairway, and hey, what's that lie look like? And sometimes I will be either close enough or I'll walk right to it and I'll then take a look. It would be kind of interesting to be like, well, let's go to the sideline cam and I could actually show you and talk about it. For now, though, if we take baby steps, I'd just be more happy to have a very robust audio signal. Maybe a video signal could be a thing too. But
so those live views actually can operate as hotspots as well. So in theory, you could use that as a hotspot, which it has multiple modems, and still log into the phone, and because it does have a camera option, and we could pull that into the broadcast.
Yeah.
In the future, technically not now because we don't have enough inputs. We can only pull in 8 cameras.
No, I could just use the phone I'm using.
Yeah. You're the 8th camera right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I could, because now I essentially turn off the video so that because we're not using it, we're just using my setup for the audio. But in theory, I could hold up the phone
and we would see exactly that. Now, again, right now you're on like basically a single modem, which isn't that robust. But in the future, if they get you hooked up to a live view unit, that could be used as a hotspot.
Sure.
And you could work that way. I don't know. Are you up to date? We're going to change lanes
Phil Mills,
here.
The answer is waffles over pancakes, though, just to answer you quickly. Yep. No, you don't be wrong on this one,
The answer is
Johnny.
pancakes.
No. See?
Pancakes, unless I'm at a hotel, then it's waffles. You never do hotel pancakes. Hotel waffles are better. But in general, if I'm at home, it's got to be pancakes. Yeah. Are you making your own waffles? Like waffle mix, waffle maker, or are you just...
My daughter did just buy a waffle maker.
Or are you...
But if I went to a restaurant and they said, all right, you get pancakes or waffles, I'm taking waffles every time.
You know what? At a restaurant, you're probably right. At home, pancakes 100% of the time. It depends.
Maybe.
And at a hotel,
we'll see how my
waffles
daughters
as
are.
well. But anyway, are you up to date on the OWN situation? You heard?
Yeah, I'm familiar with.
Familiar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we talked.
We
much
didn't talk about it because it.
Well, you weren't
unfolded.
here.
Yeah, because I wasn't here last week.
You weren't here, and I don't know if it had happened last week when we. Would it have? Yeah, I think we. Yeah, Owen had already won last week, so I believe we had talked. I don't know if we talked about it on the pod. Not we, but I talked about it on the broadcast last week. It was an hour and a half of me. Just me, so lucky everybody.
Yeah, what a treat that must have been.
My understanding is Owen got a courtesy violation for the way she. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure we did talk about this for the way she had treated a volunteer of some sort or a park official. And I don't know all the situation. Maybe you know more than I do, as sometimes you do that. You maybe.
There's nothing more that I could publicly share. That is, I mean,
It's pretty much that, though.
Yeah,
right?
and typically, like most things, right, wrong, or otherwise, there's 2 or 3 sides to every story. He, she, and the truth, or A, B, and the truth, however you want to word it, or a mixture of those two make the truth, whatever it is. Yeah, that's exactly what I had heard as well. Essentially, is that there was a discrepancy about Owen, and she had arrived seemingly late to get into the final 9, and then the story as it was told was that she was rude. I think was the word that was used toward a and I think Owen has come out and said otherwise, and that's why I always say, like, maybe unlike the one where we had video footage this weekend, this one has a lot more hearsay to it, and all you can do, I guess, is go with what's been reported.
Were you able to take in any Finnish cuisine, Terry?
No.
You're not a very adventurous eater in general.
Well, I'm not. That's very true, but also, to be fair, moments after I arrived in Finland and arrived at the President's Cup, I think it was about 6 minutes after arriving is how this story had unfolded, is that I was then asked to do post-production, FPO post-production commentary. And I had accepted and said that I would do that. What I didn't really fully, I guess, grasp is that meant that almost every day I was at the course around 7:30 or 8 after about a 20 or 30 minute drive. I got to the course about 8 o'clock, I'll just say. 8 o'clock. We were then live from 9 to 12:30 or 1, and 1:30 by the time I was done doing all the interviews. And then we were live again from 3 to 7:30 doing all the interviews. And then when things were all ready and squared to go, by 8-ish, we started commentary. And then from 8 until 10 or 10:30, I did FPO commentary.
Okay.
Lots of places are closed by 10:30 in Finland. And it made for 4 or 5 of the longest days of my year. And then it's light out. When you get out of the commentary at 10:30 or whatever time it was, and then we had a 30-minute drive back to the hotel, and it's still light out, so you don't feel like you should be tired, and it does mess with you a little in that way. And it's 10 o'clock, and people are just starting the round, which is like you're literally walking past them, starting on hole 1 at the Beast, and it's 10 o'clock or 10:30, so that feels a little weird. It made for some of the longest week, just the longest days of the year, and then just like rinse and repeat 4 days. And then one of the 9s didn't record correctly, so we had to re-record that and throw that into the mix of those days. I'm not complaining, but I'm complaining. It was just a very, very, very long, strenuous day every day.
Matt says, in response to my order of breakfasts, which French toast is number 1, followed by, for me, a ham and cheese omelet, and then waffles/pancakes, depending on, again, where I am. If I'm at home, pancakes. If I'm out on the road, it's usually waffles.
Yeah.
But he says egg in a hole is his go-to. I do like a good egg in a hole. I had when I was in college, I had a girlfriend that would make that all the time for breakfast. It was delicious.
We're still talking about the same thing.
Yes.
Okay.
This is not any sort of analogy, if any
euphemism.
Sort of euphemism. No, this is actual breakfast.
I don't want to go there.
Actual breakfast. It was delicious. Andy Cap asks, did you put some shades on those lights tonight? Looking a lot better for color. I actually changed a few things. I bought a new light right above my head. That was an outlet that was usually turned off, so it was kind of dark. And now it's got like a nice little blue hue. You can see it on my hair here, which also adds a little bit on the shoulders and such. This one is a white light now. This one is more of a yellow light, and they're a little bit dimmer. And with this, it just really color balanced it a lot better, so that we're not as white as the Finnish people. We're pasty. I am.
You are.
I'm
not so much. I even applied sunscreen twice this weekend.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was before bed, which was weird, but
yeah.
But still, at least it was put on.
It got on somewhere at some point. That's all that
right.
mattered.
Yeah, you didn't even tell us where you put it. It was
exactly.
Armpits or something strange. That's not how it works. Did you eat it, Terry? Because that's not how it works either. So that's why the colors are a little different. I'm starting to draw up plans for a new background.
Okay, so
we'll
apparently
see.
There's now a conversation about raisins within. Yeah, I can understand people being pretty hit or miss on raisins.
Yeah. At what age did you start liking raisins? That's funny because I felt as a kid I liked raisins in the little red cardboard containers that after you were empty you'd blow through them and they'd whistle. But when I grew up, I stopped liking raisins. Raisins are just okay. If they're in like a Chex Mix, Monster Mix kind of thing, they're okay.
In a bagel?
No. And if they're literally baked into anything, it's the worst thing in the world then.
No, that's stupid.
Yeah.
All right,
No,
so somebody
It's
had asked earlier about Kristen Tatar. I'll just tell you there was very little conversation. I mean, as far as what I know is that her elbow is possibly undergoing some strain from just a lot of throwing and a lot of playing. She's playing more competitive golf more than ever before in terms of our just offerings within disc golf. And it sounds like that's where it's at. So I didn't see Kristen, which I was a little bit surprised.
Was she there at all?
I don't believe that she was. I don't know that for a fact.
I saw a picture.
I never saw her. And
I saw a picture of her on the beach. She had it was one of those classic take a picture of your feet because you're on the beach type photos.
I didn't see her.
I don't think she
at
was there.
The event. I don't believe she was there in any capacity.
I think she was in Estonia.
But I did see Silver. I saw her significant other, Silver Lot, and I had to get a selfie with him. One of the first things I did when I got there, I made sure to get a selfie with Jakub from the weekend before, who had performed well. Finished.
Is it pronounced Jakub?
Or Jakub. Sorry.
Jakub. Okay.
Sorry. I don't know.
J's are not J's.
I know.
J's
are
Y's.
Jakub. I got a selfie with him. Introduced myself to him because I had not met him before. And I also got myself a selfie with Anakin Steen. So
cool.
After I felt like I knew them so well after talking about them both for 4 days on coverage of the PCS Sula Open. So I just got to get my selfies in there. All right, let's see. Johnny's going to start pulling up the giveaway stuff. I'm going to see what else we have on the board to discuss. There's a very mixed reaction to raisins on the board. I'm good with that.
Raisins are the worst.
So when you say you're trash, you guys are. I also. Oh wait, sorry.
What's your go-to cereal?
It's so funny that I rarely eat any breakfast,
really?
Let alone if I do, it's never cereal.
Never cereal, yeah.
Never. But if you could just line up all cereals in the world in front of me,
what are you taking?
I'd probably, considering my diet and health plan, I'd probably go with Golden Grams.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't eat Captain Crunch or...
I haven't had Captain Crunch in a while.
You used to.
I did. No, I would eat Captain Crunch in a heartbeat now, but my wife just never buys it. Usually, lately, it's either Kix.
Yuck.
They're just like little puffs.
I don't remember the last time I had Kix, but whenever I did, they were gross.
Really? They're just like...
And it's probably been 30 years.
They're just puffs. I mean, that's all. They're just puffs and milk. Cheerios.
You're second guessing Golden Grams, but you eat Kix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm just rattling off the cereals that we usually have in the house. Frosted Flakes. Sometimes, see, to me, Golden Grams is like the crappy version of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I would so much rather have Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
I would eat that just like I would eat s'mores if it was available. S'mores, but yeah, Golden Grahams.
I didn't like the s'mores one, but Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Honey Nut Cheerios we do a lot of. Trying to think what else we have sometimes. There's one other sugar. Every once in a great while, like maybe twice a year, my wife gets Fruit Loops, which I think are okay. Oh, they tear up the top of my mouth though, so I don't love them. But I would speaking of tearing up the top of my mouth, I would so go for some Captain Crunch.
Yeah, that's exactly what's on the board.
That stuff would tear your roof
I'm trying
up.
to think if I've ever had it even.
Oh, it's so good.
I feel like maybe I have, but
so
that's
good.
all everybody says is how it tears up your mouth.
It's so tasty though. It's like, to me, it's like eating like you feel that way when you're done, like you've just had too hot a pizza and it's burnt the roof of your mouth. Yeah, that's how you feel when you're done. But during it, it's delicious.
There's no way. It's funny to think that taste outweighs that
it does.
pain when it comes to...
It does, Terry. I don't know how, but it does.
All right, that does not... all right, Ray had asked something about it looked impossible on DGN. Did you ever better look at what he did? And I think you were talking about a Macbeth recovery shot on hole 13, final round. What was your view of the shot? Let me recap back to 13. Yeah.
Where he kicked off to the left, he was in 12's fairway.
It was... Oh, I didn't. I was hundreds of feet away from it. Honestly, his third shot wasn't probably as difficult. It was just different. It wasn't as difficult. Maybe it was though. I don't know. I prefer the fairways. He didn't on that hole. That's for sure. Well, he did the other fairway. He still got the par.
He got the par.
I know he did. So I can honestly, though, not speak to any of it. I was where most people go, like 98% of the players. And so whatever he did was incredible, but I cannot speak to the actual difficulty of it for that reason, because I was nowhere near that.
And no surprise, big shout out to Paul for after the round doing the interview. It's got to be a slightly tough interview, like it or not, and he handles it like a champ.
Yeah. Well,
unlike Eagle, who wins and can't show up for his second interview. He's too busy signing discs for hundreds of kids.
Yeah. I know those are going to become possibly more common, that we're having runners up and such at tournaments. And
I always
to be fair, some situations are going to be easier than others. And a major that was so highly contested, I feel like if you finish 4 strokes off the pace and you never really caught them, then maybe that interview is a little easier to both give and to have. But in just a volatile match back and forth that could have went any way on any given hole at any given time, I'll admit that was one of my more challenging interviews to...
A lot of people thought it was a great interview. I saw that a lot of comments. Like, it was a great interview. So
that's good to hear, because it was a little bit difficult to think about, and I almost gave maybe Eagle and Paul a hard time. Like, I say this all the time. Usually during a round, when I think I know who's going to win, I just tend to think of the very first question I want to ask. After that, it's usually pretty reactionary, or I think of them on the fly. With these guys, I was just like, I don't know who's going to win. Like, it was so back and forth, and I wanted to give them both a hard time. Like, can you get this decided a little earlier so I know what question I'm going to ask you? But it was just this incredible battle. So, shot of the year candidate is what someone had said. So possibly Paul is flying his caddy Jonas over for USDGC.
Wait, which is shot of the year candidate? The shot of the year candidate it was like what, hole 5 when he threw it through the trees?
4, which I didn't have a good angle on either.
No, you
for some reason. No, was it raining that day? It was a rainy day.
It was a rainy.
Yeah, I think I was effing with the the unit.
And I honestly felt bad on that shot because I'm the eyes and ears for the cameraman sometimes. So my camera 2, who's down by the catch, he's like, Johnny, I'm blind. I cannot see when it's coming. And I'm like, okay, I got you. Usually I try to predict, like, all right, he's lining it up. And remember, we're on a 2-second delay. I'm like, all right, and here he goes. That's usually what I do. But he took so long, and he went back and forth, and finally he said, I forgot that I was supposed to warn my cameraman. And I was looking at something else, and Paul lines it up, and he throws it into the trees, and then it pops out inside the circle. And the camera had no clue it was coming, so he didn't know to point towards the trees. I didn't know Paul was going to throw it into the trees, for the love of God. And I mean, again, I felt bad because I think we missed what could have been a slightly better angle on that shot from the catch cam, having at least pop out from the trees because of me and getting distracted and Paul taking so long on that shot. So, but ultimately,
so you're calling him out and said there should have been a 30-second violation.
I'm
totally
saying,
unfair.
I'm saying he
unfair. Warn him.
Someone could have maybe called him on it. I don't know. I didn't time him, but either way, it could have been better. But I think that's a better shot of the year than that Heiser recovery over the bushes from 12 into 13's fairway. That's a great shot. But I would take the through the trees.
I'll admit,
it looked like he hit a gap about the size of your head. Which is still pretty big, but
that's a bad analogy.
No, it's big enough. That's what I'm saying. It's big enough to hit.
Yeah, it's funny because it took me 3 or 4 rounds, almost 3.5 rounds, to realize, like, hey, I'm going to not go as far down on 13 to try and get into position, because if somebody does hit early, I want to see just how bad it is if they hit early on 13. But if you get too close on 13 to the tee and you have to chime in, then you run the risk of somebody being able to hear you as you give the assessment. So, yeah, hole 13 it's a very difficult hole to play, semi-difficult to film, and also semi-difficult to do commentary from the sideline. So, it's some of these weird intricacies that you experience while you're out there, that's for sure. Incredible battle with Avelina. It certainly was, if you're talking about her and Paige, of course. Class act interview. Thank you. Appreciate it. And yes, he was talking, we did get a quick mention of Jonas, who ended up giving him a ride. I gave him a ride to a supermarket where then he was going to get on a bus because their mass transit is beyond awesome, like everywhere else, right? Outside of the U.S. Not everywhere, some places. Anyway, he was through the roof. This kid was so pumped, as he should be. He's never been to the U.S., and shortly after the loss, Macbeth says to him, hey, why don't you come be my caddy at the USDGC? So this kid, who's now 21, was just through the roof, and very, awesome. Very excited. And he's excited, and definitely a baller move on Macbeth's part, and maybe something that lightened them both up to make the best of that day's situation. And the kid's probably still glowing, 72 hours later about it, as he should be.
We're almost ready for our giveaway, but Ray says Paul had a big red binder and kept it out of his bag, kept pulling it out of his bag and putting it back in. That's next level preparation.
Yeah, it's not.
Those are the scorecards.
Yeah, those are every single group. I guess since the inception of this event, they are at the very first hole, are one person or some representative of the group is handed that red binder, and that red binder has all 4 people's paper scorecards in it, and that's how they're distributed. So that's not prep on Paul's part. He does all his other prep, clearly, but that had nothing to do with Paul specifically, as it was for just for the scorecards. Matt from the Nick and Matt is asking Nico for an interview. Okay. Someone said, would I be afraid of asking him or having an interview with him after a loss? Absolutely not. First of all, I'm not afraid of Nico in general. Second of all, if he agreed to an interview, I would expect to have conversations with him. And third, I think that would be probably, depending again on the situation, probably a passionate, very solid interview. I feel like Nico does a really good job at conducting himself in interviews. He always speaks his mind, whether you agree or disagree. I'd have no problem with that, and I don't think Nico would have a problem with that either. So, no problem with that at all.
I've got no problem giving something away, Terry.
Yeah, you do. Don't. Let's give it away.
Give it away now. Just like the Chili Peppers said. Anyway, patreon.com/SmashboxTV is where you can be eligible for our giveaways. If you become a patron of Smashbox TV, you get automatically entered into our weekly giveaway. And this week we'll be giving away some disc, huh, Terry?
Yes.
Like a disc. Yeah, Terry, you got a disc we can give away.
I do.
I think you collect a few of them.
I bought a few while I was there, too.
Did you?
Yeah, I don't know how difficult these are to get your hands on, but when I was there, I decided to pick up some of the brand new Metal Flake FDs with the European Open stamp. I don't think I'm generous enough to possibly let one of those go.
Probably. I wouldn't be.
Yeah. But I did pick up a few. And I have I don't want to call it an exclusive, but I got a really good interview with another new product that's hitting the market. That's obviously it's disc golf related. It's not a disc, but I do have a really good, quick little 5-minute piece that I will at some point put together here and get it out for everybody. You're going to find it absolutely fascinating. And the teaser or the hint that I'll put out there is that this is something that's been called for the last 10 or 15 years. And it's a pretty cool product. So look for that to come out.
That's great. Terry, we have 175 people eligible for our giveaway tonight. What do you want to do? How do we want to give those away? What number do you want to pick?
It's Paige Pierce's third European Open win. So we just have to pick the third number.
The third one. All right, our first number is 53. Our second number is 56. Higher or lower than 56, Terry?
I'm winning the jackpot tomorrow, or I don't know.
It's
do I have
technically
to buy a
tonight.
ticket?
I didn't buy any tickets.
Why are they doing it tonight?
I think because it's Mega Millions. I think it's tonight. It's not Powerball.
Yeah, I went to like 3 stores today, and every time I was in a store for anything, that's all I heard people talking about. And I kept
it's
thinking,
like 700 and some million.
Are they just getting ahead of it for tomorrow night?
No, I think the
it's
drawing
not like
is tonight.
the Mega. It's not
Mega Millions, not Powerball, which I think is our Wednesday. So anyway,
damn it! So I should have bought.
I honestly thought about going to the store tonight before you came over, but I was like, I don't care that much about it.
I would have won millions tonight. All right, it's going to be higher than 56.
And the number is 101, Terry. You nailed
it. I'm
Way to be
wrong,
so smart,
usually.
Terry. 101. Let me find out who that is. I sorted it by first name today.
Okay.
So
well, you do that. Did JVD give Terry a hard time about saying he'd be on the last week's show? I don't. Somebody said something to me after the fact. I distinctly told you it'll be like 4 a.m. and I had no interest in being on the show. And somebody said that you were calling out for me.
You never. I don't believe you said you had no interest in being on the show.
I said I absolutely wouldn't be on it. Whenever we talked,
I don't believe you said that to me.
Yes, because I knew it would be 4 a.m.
Yeah, and I don't believe you said that to me.
I know I did.
Because it was funny because when I logged in, you had gone to you were active like 20 minutes before the show or 27 minutes before the show.
Well, I mean, those things aren't always pinpoint accurate, you know.
Pretty close. But no, I'm fairly certain that nowhere. All you sent me was like, and I didn't get it till right before the show, was the McCabe information that we need to have him on soon.
I'll have to find and prove you wrong again.
Yeah, I honestly I don't recall seeing
because there
was no discussion about it, so I made the assumption that you were going to be on.
That I was planning to be on after like a 16 or 18 hour travel day, and it being 4 a.m. there, I had absolutely no.
So we should have gone to bed early.
Yeah.
So anyway, the winner is Kurt Bimler. Congratulations, Kurt. We will get. You are at the disc level. Speaking of discs, Terry, you'll have to fill us in on what's going on there so I can sign a bunch more discs so we can get them out. Kurt Bimler, we will get you that information. We'll get your information and send you a disc right out of Terry's stash.
Yeah, I called you during one of my early layovers. I have an airport layover, one of two. I'm in Germany, leaving for Latvia soon. Then Latvia to Tampere. No delays. That's good.
Yeah,
good, blah, blah, blah. So as well, we were on this phone call, 9 minutes. Here, I recorded it. We'll play it for the world. I didn't.
I know.
But that would be funny. Maybe not.
I honestly don't remember you saying anything about not being on the show.
I absolutely, during that phone call.
And that's fine. I just, I waited, and then I figured that you weren't going to be on when it was 9 o'clock, so I just went live, which is 100% okay.
Anyway, so no, I was not. Miss the beard. Yeah, we got to have a little more Dynamite here in the future. You're right. Daddy Dana won the North American Beard Championships. Yeah. Dana has been playing in a few tournaments lately. That's correct. And,
it's a little harder to get Dana on because the show has changed just a little bit in that we have, usually if we have a guest, we've been getting him on right away in the morning. That's silly. Right away as the show starts, which is usually when Dana used to be on because Dana wanted to be off before 10 o'clock because he had to wake up early with kids. So because things have shifted, it's kind of pushed Dana to the back burner a little bit, We'd love to have Dana back on at some point. But yes, that's the show has just shifted a little bit in what's been going on and how we've taken account to it. Like Paige we had on right away this morning, or as the show started.
4 a.m. Yes, it was light out during some of those hours. I learned that throughout the week. It was not, one of the smartest things I've ever brought, and this is my traveling tip for everyone, two of the smartest things you can bring, especially international, is, first of all, bring some kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Power, not bank.
Like a
extension cord. No, like an extension cord. Power strip. Wow.
Oh, power strip.
Mine's not in a strip format. It's an octopus looking format. But anyway, bring one of those so that you just have to bring one power inverter. And then you simply plug in your power strip into your one power inverter, and then you have it. So you don't need to bring 9 power inverters for your 9 items. Again, a lot of people don't travel with as many electronics as I do necessarily, but just bring one power inverter and then plug in a power strip, and then you're good to go. Second best thing that I've been bringing everywhere, international or otherwise, but especially good this trip, I have a little 99-cent clip, like plastic clip that, well, it's one's right here. This is exactly it. I have one of these that was like 99 cents at Home Depot. And if you're a little bitch about lights and sunlight coming into your room, I take one. Like I am.
Wow.
I take one of those with me now. It's just in my suitcase permanently. I take that and I clip my shades together, my curtains together, so I never have to. Well, it doesn't always work, but usually it does. So your curtains will be clipped together, and I sleep with them that way just to help keep any light out. So.
Well, you're never allowed to sleep in my bed upstairs with me because we have no curtains on our house.
That
in our room
is not for me.
I know, but you also go to bed way later.
Correct. I'm sometimes going to bed when the sun is coming up.
Correct.
So.
My usually latest I'm up is hopefully 11 o'clock, and I try to get to sleep, and then I'm up at 6 in the morning anyway.
So. Someone asked earlier, and it kind of ties in with this next question, as to how was Finland? Is it worth a visit? Finland is incredible. It's such a different life and lifestyle. Just one little testament to how Finland is. When you're crossing the street, there's 2 things. One, you only do it at the crosswalks. Why? Because that's where you're supposed to. So they do that, which is just feels weird. Here, we just cross wherever the hell we please, any street, anytime. Not so much in Finland. You cross where there's a crosswalk. 2, everybody stops for you. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be a yield sign. It's just implied or assumed that, hey, somebody's crossing the street. I'm going to stop for that person while they cross the street. And it feels like there's such a, I don't want to say a higher respect for life, but I guess that's one way to look at it. It's just so different. And now also you're dealing with a much lower population. What does Finland have? 5.5 million people. That's almost exactly that are in like the entire state of Wisconsin or something like that. It's just very different. And then also, I'll say the peacefulness. I was thinking this. One, you see like 1 or 2 police people. Our crew was talking about it in Norway. Most of them saw exactly 0 police in like the whole week they were there, which when you look at their crime rates, you look at everything else, it makes sense that they're not nearly as needed or as vil. Yeah, somebody told me that, was it the country of Finland has 2,900 police? For the entire country, there's like 2,900 total, some absurd number like that, incredibly low. Another thing, they like respect everybody else's property. Like, as it was learned, you leave something sit there, guess what? Somebody else doesn't pick it up and steal it. You don't have to worry about shit like that. It's so.
It's like, I mean,
appropriate. It's so like
how the world should be.
How the world should be. And I know that's not specific just to Finland. I think there's a lot of countries that way, but like you set something down and or you have something valuable. Like I think of all this shopping that was done throughout the week. And you could take everything you just bought and set it in a place and it'll just be there. It's not going to get stolen. Not by anyone from Finland anyway.
Terry, on the other hand, is grabbing things left and right.
And then I think about also the shopping experience and like, In America, there's no doubt about this. I took a few videos and pictures of it. what they had for a pro shop set up inside. Thousands upon thousands of discs. There's not a security guard sitting there at the exit, like watching or checking anyone. It's just a very honorable, very respected part of the culture. Another thing I noticed and thought of very much so, not only, of course, there's a lot less businesses, therefore a lot less potential road signs and clutter and whatnot, but I didn't see literally 1 ounce of litter anywhere at any point. I should back that up. There was a little bit in downtown, which was also insanely populated this particular weekend because I don't know what their version of it would be, but it's like the largest city festival of the entire year. Tummerfest. I'm sure I'm screwing that up, but it's something like that. I think they pronounced it Tummerfest or Tammerfest. It was insane. But that definitely created a little bit of litter. But you don't have litter on the side of the road. You don't have it's part of the reason when I got home, some of you saw my Instagram post talking about being grateful and thankful. That all is so much easier when you're in some of these other countries. And I'm not anti-America, but
yeah, President's Cup.
When
USA.
When you travel
we won.
to some of these other countries, like I've been so blessed to do, whether it was Croatia or Finland or Norway, when you travel to some of those countries and then you come back, it is such, honestly, there's so much of it that's just a direct slap in the face. Just, especially when you're coming into a place, whether it's LA or Chicago or New York, our most populated cities, and then just you're immediately thrown back into what we have for a typical culture and experience. And it's not 2 seconds that you're in Chicago and somebody's flipping you off and laying on their horn and driving like an effing maniac. Again, I'm not anti-America, but I'll tell you, that's probably one of the craziest parts about traveling international is the return, because you quickly get like slapped right back and you're like, wow, this was so different 12 hours ago, wherever I just was. So Finnish people by nature are very quiet and reserved. That's why you don't have a lot of places necessarily open late. And I learned this a lot at Toonie a few years ago when it was 8 or 9 o'clock. They're not going out to the bars and then creating big social gatherings and activities. It's often you're reserved, just more quiet and reserved and more homebody focused. Clearly, that's not everyone. I'm just saying that's more so the culture. I mean, you have your own sauna at home, so you go home and you.
I think it's less so in like the biggest cities. I think there's much more.
Helsinki is a little more active,
with nightlife and stuff when you get into the biggest
Tampere
cities.
has things to do. Don't get me wrong, but you're not. It's certainly far from Wisconsin where we've got a bar every six blocks. And they're all open till 2 a.m. Every day of the week. So
yes, that I agree with.
Very, very, very different, but it's just incredible. Now, Norway, Finland, I've had experiences in both. I love them both. You cannot beat the views in Norway. Finland's amazing and incredible, and arguably has a much deeper, richer golf scene. But if you're going purely from an aesthetic point of view and enjoyment and non-golf related, you would pick Norway over Finland, in my opinion.
I'm hoping maybe that next year we have the Sula and the European Open back to back again.
Yeah.
Because I would love, honestly, we've talked about taking the family to Japan or possibly doing that trip with them and then just kind of telling DGN, yeah, I'm taking those weeks off. Suck it.
Yeah, there's some incredible opportunities and things to experience out there. David said Philo was there, but I think he got cut. Yes, Philo, I believe, ended up tying Avery Jenkins, is what I think I heard over the broadcast. That Philo and Avery Jenkins, and unfortunately, neither of them made the cut. He has had a great time. Will Terry be allowed to use DGN clips during a post-round live stream? Are you able to manage all of that, or would you need a producer? That conversation's been had, and it's been quote-unquote approved to attempt that. At some point, I'd love to attempt that. I think it could be much easier if the long and short of it is, if I used a different show switching operation, and then I quickly ran through the clips so that I could set them up to more easily use them with like a Stream Deck, which is a tool. It's basically a shortcut button pressing tool. It certainly it's there. It will be very clunky on my behalf, as some of you saw the Nico video that I accidentally continuously played during my recap.
Lord. I tune in because you have an after show, and it's, I tune in at work, and you're like, I don't even know if you guys are gonna be able to hear this.
And then you guys heard nothing but that for 3 straight minutes.
And we could still hear you, but in the background, all you heard was Nico apologizing like 4 or 5 times. And finally, I'm like, I believe you, Nico. I believe you.
I genuinely, because I often have a hard time getting audio to work from another source, because the system I use is not nearly as sophisticated as this. And therefore, when it was playing, I felt terrible that everybody, and of course, that's all they remembered or screamed about. But I apologize.
Rydell says, I saw that AJ was going to some island between Finland and Sweden called Disc Golf Island or something like that. Have you all been there? No, that's that new Disc Golf Island Community Center that has like 19 courses on it or something.
Yeah, I think 16 is the number.
Is it 16? 16 courses all on one island. And that's relatively new over the last, year, 2?
Yeah, just in the last couple of years, it was announced that it was going to happen, and now they've got most of them built or all of them built, and Avery's going to be not only checking them out, but also doing some instructional things and some tourist-type things.
Racking up his course count.
Yeah, very much so, to help promote and advertise for those, and he's there doing that probably as we speak right now. He was going to be doing that for a few days this week.
Terry, let's wrap this up.
Oh, I got some other good stuff.
No, you don't.
Okay, maybe not.
I know you.
Tim says, when I retire, I'll be your producer, Terry. I appreciate that, Tim. If you could just retire, then that'd be great.
Yeah, we have rights to use the highlights, the DGN highlights. I don't know for what time, but we talked about it when we, agreed to do the broadcasts, that we can use them for like podcasts and stuff like that. We couldn't create our own YouTube videos just based on the highlights like they do, but we can use them for interviews and highlight stuff. So that's kind of cool.
I have some other ideas along those lines, but that's another story. All right, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Spock says Wisconsin has bars in the DMV. Thank you, though. That's actually really funny. Not true, but it is funny. Nonetheless,
that's where you go. You go to the you go to the bar after the DMV, after you get your license at 16.
Yeah, do it in the right order. We do thank you for joining us. We look forward to you guys joining us, of course, for the D-Glow this weekend. If you do have things that you'd like to know from some of our press conference peeps, seriously, send me a message, and if it fits in, I will maybe slightly reword it and pawn it off as my own question, because that's what I do. But we thank you, and congrats again, Paige Pierce, Eagle McMahon, Johnny VM, the Disc Golf Guy. That's 413's After Show. We'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox. Bye.